Are you listening? Are you watching? You know what it is. Not just boxing. From the canvas to the madness. Sit down and get yourself locked in. Are you listening? Are you watching? You know what it is. Not just boxing. From the canvas to the madness. Sit down and get yourself locked in.
So the Olympics is finally here, Paris 2024. I absolutely love amateur boxing, especially at the Olympics. It's the best time. So today we have a very special guest, Cain Bradley. He's been writing in boxing for over 10 years and he's a boxing guru. Honestly, everything that he researches and studies and looks into, it's very impressive. So we've just filmed this. This is now the intro, but all I have to say is it's so informative. I've learned so much, and he has broken it down very well in terms of styles, what the jaw could look like. Overall, this is a very good breakdown. If you're going to watch boxing at the Olympics, you're going to not want to miss this.
So my name is Cain Bradley. I used to box with Ash back in about 10 years ago now, when we were both at uni, so at the University of Portsmouth. I reached the Haringey Box Cup final, and I also reached the National Development Championship final. I lost both, or else I'd have called myself a winner. But yeah, so I had about 25 bouts a good few years ago. I've been writing about boxing for over 10 years now, and I'm also writing about the Olympics. I'm a massive Olympics fan, so I've got a blog where I've previewed every Olympic event, including predicting all the gold medal winners. So amateur boxing is still an Olympic sport, although that might not be the case in 2028. But as of right now, we've got the Olympic boxing, so I'm going to talk through, Ash, all the contenders, the shocks that could happen, and everything that will happen in Paris. The Olympic boxing at the moment, we've got 7 weight classes for the men, 7 for the women, so we've made it equal. So it's the first time that women are going to have the 7 boxing classes. Olympic boxing is in a bit of a bad state at the moment. There's lots of debates about the organising body, so IBA, and whether there's too much corruption. There's a lot of Russian influence that has been mentioned, and whether boxing will actually be in the 2028 Olympics. Overall, it's not in the healthiest state. A lot of the stronger boxers have all turned over from the last Olympics, so there's not too many returning faces. Also, even a lot of the British faces who would have been considered prospects back in 2020, 2021 have turned over. So it's a poor British squad as well, compared to the team in Tokyo, which was a record-setting team which won quite a few medals. Prospects are nowhere near as promising this year. We'll start with the heavyweight division, the home of the big hitters. This has one of the returning boxers and one of the definite favourites for the games. That is Bakadir Jalilov, who won in Tokyo. He's also fought as a pro, so he's amassed an unbeaten record of about 17-0. He has not lost since before the Tokyo Olympics as an amateur. He's massive, he's solid basics, and he looks impossible to beat. He looks like it'll be out of all the divisions, he's the strongest favourite. I'd be amazed if anyone gets to beat him.
Why is that? Because in heavyweights, obviously, they always say one punch can change everything. Is he ahead of everyone?
Yeah, so yes, he is ahead of everyone. I think he's part of the argument of should he just be pro and should pros not be allowed to box in the amateurs, because he's an experienced pro at this point. He's getting towards kind of the top 20 of the pro divisions, but he's
how
got so
come
much experience.
pros are still allowed to? Because a lot of people don't understand that crossover.
So this was a debate a few years ago that has kind of allowed the pro boxers to. Originally it was if you'd had only under a certain amount of bouts, but they've now got rid of that, and now anyone can. A lot of countries don't do it. So, for example, you won't see any of the American pros, you won't see any of the British pros. The organising body of the British and the American Olympic boxing teams, don't do that. But some countries have used it to their benefit. A lot of the Uzbekistan boxers have boxed professionally and are coming back to the amateur game to win the medals. It's one of those debates that boxing fans can have, and unfortunately, the ruling is what the ruling is at the moment. So,
what's your opinion on it?
I think I can understand it happening. I do think there needs to be an overall constraint on it. So actually, from a podcast I listen to, the Highfield Boxing podcast, he has a suggestion where there should be a limit on the total amount of bouts you can have as an amateur, and that would then kind of stop people having loads of amateur bouts and then continuing and then boxing pro, but then also going back to the amateurs. So that way, you just limit the amount of bouts that someone has, and once you add a certain threshold, you can only box professionally. Don't know. I think that would be kind of the right idea, because then you limit these people like Jalilov, who've got loads of experience, and often he's fighting someone who's had maybe 40, 50 fights, like the British guy, who we're going to come on to in a second, Delicious Ori, who's got nowhere near the experience levels of Jalilov, and he's got such a massive advantage just based on the experience. So I would like to see it limited, but to the same extent, I do think I like the opportunities, and I think if you're an inexperienced pro who's maybe had 3 or 4 fights, I can see why you think, actually, I want to give the Olympics a go, and I can see that being a benefit. So I sit in kind of in between the two camps, if that makes sense. But yeah, Jalilov, I think you obviously mentioned kind of in heavyweights, someone usually gets stopped. It's not so much the case in amateurs. Like, as you know, the amateur boxing system doesn't allow for stoppages to the same extent. You don't see as many knockouts. The gloves are softer, so the knockouts aren't as likely to happen. But he's just so hard to hit. He's very tall, so a lot of the boxers that he fights are smaller than him. Both.
How tall is he? Do you know roughly?
He is. I've got it written down. He is 6'7". So he's big, and he's not a skinny 6'7". He's a built 6'7". So it's not like it's easy to get through to him. So many people don't land clear shots. Basically, he's a tricky southpaw. With loads of experience. No one's really got near him for years, basically, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't win the gold. The one. Probably his most difficult bout will come against an Australian. So there's an Australian called Tero Mana Jr. I might not be pronouncing that right. He's also had professional bouts, so he'd had 4 professional bouts. He's another really big heavyweight. So he's built as well. He's tall, not quite as tall as Jalilov. He recently took Jalilov to a split decision, and no one has done that since before the last Olympics. So he's the one who, if anyone does, is going to go closest. However, the one negative for him is he, based on their seedings, he is going to fight Jalilov in the quarterfinals. Okay, so instead of them being on separate sides of the draws, they're going to be on the same side. The loser of that fight is not going to win a medal. All signs would point to Jalilov being the winner, which would mean that Junior, who is arguably the second best heavyweight in the division, is not going to get a medal, which is a bit of a shame. I'm going to criticise the seedings quite a lot, because some of them make no sense, and that's one of the ones where unfortunately we've been robbed of the fight that could have been the gold medal fight, basically. The British contender is Delicious Ori. So he's won the Commonwealth Games a few years ago. He won the European Games. He's an ex-basketball player. So again, another big guy. Most of the heavyweights are big guys. It's not news to anyone. But you can see in his feet, he's incredibly light on his feet for someone that size. I think, again, he's around 6'6", but he's fast, explosive, he's got power. The one thing with him is that his feet or his legs can sometimes look a little bit Bambi-ish. So he sometimes looks like he doesn't exactly know where his legs are going to be, which causes issues with balance. But yeah, he's a contender, again, dependent on the draw. And all of these are going to be dependent on the draw. If he gets Jalilov in round 1, it's going to be over. But if he gets a nice path, especially if he can avoid Jalilov, he's going to be okay. All the heavyweights, though, it's whether they avoid Jalilov in the draw, because I don't think anyone's going to beat him. Another pro is Kamshibek Kunkabayev, who's Kazakhstani. He's, again, an unbeaten professional, so he's 5-0 at the moment. He won bronze at the last Olympics, and again has lost to Jalilov. That's going to be the story of this division. He's a southpaw counter puncher. He's going to wait for you to come in, and then he's going to look to counter. He might be past his best at this point. How
old is he?
I think he's in his early 30s. I don't have it written down, so I don't know that one.
That's fine.
He's twice a silver medalist at the World Championship, though, so he does have a good record. Another medalist from the last Olympics is Abner Teixeira, so he's Brazilian. He's another southpaw, so he keeps his hands quite low, which, again, at heavyweight, you're taking a risk, right, with those big hitters. But yeah, he's a solid fighter. He only won silver at the Pan American Games recently, so he lost to the American fighter, which is Joshua Edwards. Now, I think Joshua Edwards is another interesting contender. Again, all this is dependent on the draw, but Joshua Edwards beat Teixeira at the Pan American Games. He's a bit more of a boxer-puncher, so he's happy to box, seems to have a decent bit of power. Obviously, how that translates at a world-class level is always a question. And he likes to control his opponents. He's quite a nice boxer to watch, actually. If you're going to watch a heavyweight, he'd be one of the ones that I think, actually, that's quite a nice style to watch. Another one is the German. So you got Nelvi Tiafak, and he's beat Delicious Ori quite recently. So the British fighter, he works at a good pace, which you don't always see with heavyweights, right? How often do you watch a lumbering heavyweight fight? He's not that. He's happy to go. His hand speed's quite good. He won the European Championship in 22. So another. If the draw suits, he's going to go well. There's a couple of others that I'll mention. So David Chalayan, he's the Armenian fighter, and he was a World Championship runner-up in 2021 against, you guessed it, Jalalov. He's experienced. He's, again, quite big, but he's leaner. So whereas the others are built big, he's leaner. So he still is tall. He wants to fight on the front foot, though. He's going to move forward. He's quite a nice mover. So whereas some heavyweights can look a bit stiff, none of that with him. He's happy to move forward and chase after you. But yeah, the footwork is quite good. Those are the main contenders, along with the Azerbaijani. So you obviously mentioned that they have quite a strong team earlier. So that's Mohamed Abdullayev. He's won bronze medals at the last 2 World Championships. So he reached the semi-final on both occasions. He's another one. He keeps his hand low. He's a really good mover, incredibly relaxed. And he's looking to land like his loopy punches. So he's a good one to watch. He's almost one of them that looks like he could fit in the other weight classes. Whereas some heavyweights, you think if you were small, you'd have no chance. He's got the style of almost a smaller man, where he's happy to bounce, happy to keep the hands low. He's another good watch. Those would be the main contenders.
Who would you say would cause an upset here? Who could beat Jalalov?
So Terra Moana would be the only one that I'd really predict it. That's going to be a good quarter-final. It's just a shame it's not the final. It feels like that should be the final. If there was one, it would probably be him. That would be the only one I could see defeating him, if I'm being honest. If we're looking for kind of a left field one, so someone who isn't necessarily on most people's radars, I'd say Gerlong Congo. He's an Ecuadorian fighter, so not a country with a great boxing heritage, but he caused an upset over Arzola, the Cuban, at the qualifiers. So he's one that could potentially steal a fight here or there and end up in the medals.
Love an underdog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's always nice when you get someone from a bit of a random country. It's not your Kazakhstan, your Uzbekistan. He's an Ecuadorian, and you don't see many Ecuadorian medalists. I wonder if I don't know this. I wonder if he would be the first Ecuadorian to medal in Olympics in boxing. That would not surprise me, because can you name any? So next weight class is the under 92 kilogram. So this would be the heavyweight division. This is headlined by Julio Cesar La Cruz. Now he's one of the best amateur boxers over the last 20 years. You'd probably say him and Lomachenko are the standouts since the turn of the century. He's a twice Olympic champion. So in Tokyo he won at this weight division, and in 2016 he won at the division below. Okay, he's a classic Cuban. So we know how the Cubans box. They're all slick. He's a 5-time world champion. So he's got all the experience. The one negative for him is that he's old. Okay, so he's 34. Boxing, bit of a young man game. 34 tends to be on the wrong side of things,
especially the amateurs. It's such a fast pace.
Exactly that. So 3 rounds, you haven't got the time to settle in and use your experience. It's fast paced, like you say. So that's the one thing. One negative towards him, but he's proven it time and time again that he's one of the best fighters around. Yeah, he's nicknamed the Shadow, which I think sums him up. And most Cuban boxers, he's going to be hard to hit. He's going to have good reflexes. He has been hit. He has been dropped a few times in the last few years, which again, is it the age as he gets older, the chin's starting to go? Maybe. But yeah, you've got to start with him. He's going to be one of the favourites for this division. One of the other favourites is Aziz Abiz Muhyiddin. Now he's Italian. He's a double World Championship silver medalist. He's won the European Games and the European Championship. So he's dominated continental competitions. He's a southpaw. He's very quick. So he's one of the men in this division who will probably have a bit of a speed advantage over Julio Cesar La Cruz, which again is unusual for the Cuban. Because of his style, he's always in close fights. So he's not necessarily going to take his fight to the opponent. And you could often say that he fights to the level of his opponent. So you'll see him at his best against someone like Julio Cesar La Cruz. But then you'll also see him look poor against guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect him to. So if you see him in the first round and he's got a weaker opponent, he doesn't look good, it's fine. Don't be shocked. That's what I expect. He will up his level as his competition ups. And he's one of the few who I think can beat La Cruz.
That's sort of smart in a tournament, though, because you don't want to go balls to the wall in every fight. And if you can cruise against a lower level opponent, then you're going to, aren't you?
That's the only thing. Yeah, the one negative to it, though, is with the amateur judging system. And, you know, you can criticise professional judges as well, for sure. But with that, you never know if you're going to lose a fight that you feel you should have won. But yeah, I like it. I like, you know, you want to conserve some energy. You want to be your best in the big fights. But if he loses a split decision in the first round, we're all going to be criticising.
Yeah.
So it's one of them. We'll see how it goes, and if it goes well, we'll praise, and if it goes badly, we'll criticise. One of the other contenders is the Uzbekistani Lazibek Mulajanov. He's another one who has run Jalilov close previously. So one of the few men since the Tokyo Olympics who has taken him to a split decision. He's moved down from super heavyweight because he wasn't going to get in that Uzbeki team because of Jalilov. He's another one who's gone pro, so he's 4-0 as a professional. He's a southpaw. He's not seeded, which means that he could fight any of the kind of two that I've mentioned previously. Any of the seeds, he could fight them in the opening round. So if we see him against La Cruz or him against the Italian, it's going to be a battle because, again, that should be a semi-final or a final. He's quite powerful. He's a nice little punch picker, as most of the Uzbekis that we talk about are going to be. They're all very good at finding their punches. He won the Asian Championships up at super heavyweight and is a tricky southpaw. And he was a bronze medalist at the 2023 World Championships. So yeah, another fighter that I'd name. I think those three are the best three fighters in that division. But as reference, the draw is going to mean the other fighters have a chance. One of those is Keno Machado. Now, people who paid attention at the Tokyo Olympics may remember that he lost to Ben Whittaker. So he lost to Ben Whittaker in the quarterfinals. Since then, he's gone on to win a World Championship silver medal. So he won that in 2021. Again, he's going to keep his hands low. He's going to have lots of feints. He's going to use his long reach, and he's going to try and hit and move and not really get into a fight. Him and Ben Whittaker, because of their styles, it wasn't a great fight to watch. They both stood there triggering, not looking to engage. But yeah, he's a danger. Again, if the draw goes right for him, I think he'll be at the business end of the competition.
Who did he lose to at the Worlds to
at
get
the
silver?
World Championships? So he lost to someone who isn't competing in this this tournament. So that was at the cruiserweight division, which is the 86 kilo division. So it's going to be someone who's not actually here. You've got a British fighter, so we're not going to talk about too many British fighters today, but it's Patrick Brown, who comes out of the Moss Side Gym, so up north. He is aggression personified. He is going to walk forward, he is going to charge through, and he's going to try and land big shots. Okay, he's tough. Stylistically, you know, he's not going to look as pretty as a Cesar La Cruz or Mahudin. He's not going to look as pretty as that. But if he can walk you down, win some rounds doing that, maybe even hurt you, he could go far in this competition. Again, it just depends on the draw. You don't want to see him against one of these slick counter punches because I just worry that he's not going to be quick enough. He's not going to be sharp enough. I say that about British boxers. Funnily enough, there are two other competitors who are trained in Britain. Okay, so we've got Adam Alari, who's from Nigeria. He's UK based. He's fought in the English National Championships. Not quite winning, but he's been to the latter stages of those competitions. You've also got Matusz Bereźnicki, who's Polish, and I don't know if you know what gym he comes from. He fought at the Gosport gym, he's local. So he comes from just over the little sea. He's born here, raised here, competed here. Got massive long arms. Keeps his hands low. Is quite a nice boxer to watch. Again, I'd be surprised if he medals, but if the draw does open up, he's got a possibility. Now, the number one seed here is from Samoa, and Samoa are not a country with a boxing history. Unfortunately, it's another example of poor ranking, in my opinion. I don't think he deserves to be the number one seed. It's a guy named Ato Plodziki Feogaili. He comes forward, he's going to put on pressure, but I think, again, he's going to struggle at the upper end. Hopefully something like him v Pat Brown happens because they are just going to go, bang heads like two balls. But yeah, I think this will be a little bit much for him to expect a medal. There's two other competitors who competed in the last Olympics that have decent chances. You've got Emmanuel Reyes. So he's a Cuban-born boxer, but now represents Spain. Again, your typical Cuban fighter. He's got quick feet, quick hands.
Does he train in Cuba?
No, he's left Cuba. Along with kind of a few of the Cuban fighters. I'm going to mention another one in a second. But he's kind of got out of Cuba, left Cuba, and now compete for Spain, basically. So he's one. The other one is Lauren Alfonso, who is Azerbaijani. So as referenced earlier, he's the Azerbaijani who's potentially got the best shot. He won bronze at the last Olympics in the weight below. A good fighter. Again, he's medalled at the Cruiserweight World Championship, so in the weight division below. He's typically Cuban. He's slick. He's going to be good if he gets your time in, but I think he's on the decline. I don't think he's looked that good in his build-up fights for the Olympics, and I'd be surprised if he medals. Basically, I think this comes down to the top three. Machado would be another one that I potentially think can medal, and I'll mention Davlat Boltayev of Tajikistan, not known for their boxing, but he's an impressive fighter. He won the Asian Games in 2023. He's fast, will keep his hands low, but I think he's another contender to medal. Final one, the actual final one I'll mention, because I think I said that last time, is Victor Shell Straight. He's a Belgian fighter. He's another turned pro, 4-0. He's awkward. He's got a really weird style, and I think it will cause difficulty for people who expect the typical traditional style. I think because he just looks weird. It's hard to explain. You've got to watch him, but his movements, he doesn't move like a normal boxer. He moves very stiff, and I think that boxers find that hard to adjust when you're so used to fighting traditional kind of fighters. Mm-hmm. He's got a bit of power in his hands as well, and he's another that's won a world championship medal down a weight. So
who would you say out of all of those, who would you say has got the best chance of getting gold medal?
I think it will be depending on the draw, as I'm gonna preface every one of these. I think that Cesar La Cruz will lose. I think that the Italian Muhyiddin is going to be the one that beats him, and again, hoping that the draw permits, I hope that it's a final between him and the Uzbekistani. I would edge to the Italian, but again, he's the type that could lose in the first round if it goes wrong, because he's going to fight to level his opponent. But yeah, I think those three, the standout threes, and as long as the draw allows, they will go through to the end stages. The other bronze medal, I think we're potentially looking at Machado or Boltayev, the Tajikistani. But yeah, the draw is big here.
Does Pat Brown have a chance? I've seen he's had some good stoppages recently.
Yeah, exactly, it does, because he's got power, and that's what you'd like someone to have, right? If you've got the power, all it takes is one shot. I've mentioned even Cesar La Cruz has been stopped, so there's a possibility that he can lose, he can be hit. It will depend on the draw, I think. But if he gets someone where he can put pressure on them and land, I'd fancy him. It just depends if one of these slicksters is going to be a bit too fast for him. So yeah, the draw is big for him. I'd be surprised. I'm going to put it that way. I'd be surprised if he does get a medal. But if the draw does open up, there's a possibility. He's definitely good enough too against certain opponents. I'd probably put him as kind of in the 7 to 10 range if I was ranking these boxers. So yeah, there's a few that he's going to struggle with, and there's a few that he'll beat, and it just depends how the draw goes. So division number 3 is the 80 kilo division. Again, this is one of the more exciting divisions to watch. Reason is we have some top quality fighters. The standout one that I'll mention to start is Alexander Kizniak. Now he's a Ukrainian. Funnily enough, when we mentioned Ukrainians earlier, I didn't mention him. The reason is he doesn't fight like the U6 Lomachenko. If you've ever watched Kizniak, he comes forward and brawls. He is a prototype brawler. That's all he wants to do. He wants to have a fight. And I don't know if you remember the Tokyo Olympics. He was one of the standout fights in the final. He was dominating the fight. And in the third round, knowing he was 2 rounds up, instead of kind of avoiding a fight and just trying to coast on his laurels to take the victory, he kept coming forward, and what happened? He got caught and got knocked out. It was one of the most memorable moments, one of the most shared moments of that Olympics in terms of the boxing anyway. He was going to win the title and he didn't, because he just wanted to keep coming forward. Whether he's learned his lesson, it doesn't look like it. He still boxes the same way. He comes forward, he hits you with big shots. That's what he does, okay? But that is the last time he's lost a boxing fight. In fairness, he did take a bit of a break, so it's not like he's competed in all the tournaments since, but he looks good. He looks back to his best. He's going to be one of the favourites here. He's going to be one of the favourites along with Arlen Lopez. Now, he's a Cuban. Again, the Cubans, we know what the Cubans are like. He's a slick boxer. He's got punch variety, does it from everywhere. He's also a two-time Olympic champion. So like his compatriot, Julio Cesar La Cruz, he's on 2 Olympic golds. And yeah, he's going to be a contender here. The thing with him that Julio Cesar La Cruz never suffered from is in between Olympic cycles, he struggles with, let's say, motivation issues. You often see him looking out of shape. You see him turn up at tournaments and he loses to guys where you think you'd never lose that. He is one of those boxers who thinks he can turn it on, which is fine because he has done. He's won the 2016 Olympics and he won at the Tokyo Olympics. Can he do it again? He's now over 30. Is he able to flick that switch? Is he able to do it against someone as good as Kisniak? That's the questions that we're going to answer. The one shame with these two is they are seeded to fight each other in the semi-finals. So instead of this being a final, when you've got the Cuban style against the aggressive brawler from Ukraine, it will be a semi-final, which is a bit of a shame, but that's again the seedings, and what can we do? The number 1 seed is from China, and he has one of the harder names to pronounce. We'll go with Biek Tangleifen. Okay, he's the number 1 seed. He was runner-up at the 2023 World Championships and won at the Asian Games. He also fought in Tokyo, where he lost a split decision to Consal, which is who went on to win the gold medal, beating Kisniak. He's a tall fighter who's going to look to lead. He's got a nice jab. However, he does usually remain hittable. He doesn't move his head, which means that people like Lopez, who's such a good punch picker, are able to hit him because he's there. His target is literally there. He'll also back up in straight lines. So he's going to move forwards. He's going to come jabbing at you. But if you're able to move and land your own shots, he's there. So that's his big weakness. We also have a few more fighters who competed at the last Olympics. Umar Marcial, again, he was considered a bit of a sensation at one point because he was training with Freddie Roach, and being Filipino, and that obviously evokes memories of Manny Pacquiao. Any Filipino with Roach is going to bring that up. His career has somewhat stalled, though, to a certain extent. He was the World Championship silver medalist in 2019 and then lost in Tokyo to Kisniak, but won a bronze medal. Since then, though, he hasn't really impressed. He's 5-0 as a pro, and hasn't really fought as an amateur. But the hype has definitely died down. He's a southpaw, good mover, nice and fast, and looks nice and powerful. He's got a decent hook. But yeah, I think the hype has died down, and I'm not as expecting as I was at the last Olympics of a big performance out of him. One of the people that he's going to struggle with is someone like Norbek Oralbey, who's the Kazakhstani fighter. He's the current world champion, so he won that in 2023. He's a good punch picker. He moves his head really well, and someone like Marcial, who's going to come forward, they're going to walk onto shots that Oralbey places for him. The negative of Oralbey is that he gets tired. So you've seen it in that World Championship final where he beat the Chinese fighter, Tang Leifen. He looked knackered entering round 3. So again, any pressure fighter, someone such as Kisniak, who we've already mentioned could be the best in the division, is going to give him absolute kittens. He's going to make him work, and I think he's going to tire. He is very draw dependent. If he gets a good draw, he might go far. If he gets like Marcial, even if he gets Lopez, I'd give him more of a chance. If he gets aggressive fighters who are going to come after him for 3 rounds, I think we can see him losing early.
Do you think his stamina could improve for this tournament? Is that a possibility?
Definitely. That's with anything. I'm going on the last film that I've seen of fighters. I try to watch mainly the World Championship fights because those are the biggest. So in that time, he could be a completely different fighter. Mm-hmm. But if he does, I'm not to know. So I'm not in that Kazakh gym, unfortunately. It could be that he's turned around and he looks like someone who can go and go. And
if he can go the full 3 rounds, do you think?
Then he's a serious contender. Yeah, if he's got that, if he's got the stamina to live with his ability, he's one of the most talented fighters in his weight class. So if he does have that stamina, he's going to be a serious player here. Yeah, 100%. So if he has developed that, then make a serious note of him. A few others that I'll mention. Another one who will give in trouble because of their work rate is Callum Peters. Now he's an Australian. He's only 21. Again, he's a number 1 seed, and I really don't know how. I don't know how you can look at his results. He's not beat any of these top fighters. I don't know how you can look at his results and make him the number 1 seed, but he is. So, he could cruise through here with an easy draw. I mean, the potential other seed that he's going to fight in the quarterfinals is Orobe, who's someone that I'm not particularly a massive fan of. So someone is going to get through that weaker section, and if they avoid kind of all the dangerous unranked fighters, it could well be Peters. He'll give someone like Orobe trouble. Werefone Jongjohu is maybe the standout Thai fighter, and again, not a country necessarily associated with boxing, more of a martial arts background with kickboxing and Thai boxing. That tends to be their speciality, Muay Thai. But he's a very dangerous fighter. He's also quite fun to watch. He throws every shot with venom. Okay, so he doesn't throw many of them. He's happy to wait. He's happy to sit there, and it'll often look like he's being too patient. But when he throws, you can see why he's waited. You know, there's no way that he could fight at an incredible speed, because he stands there and he's going to throw all his shots 100%, and he's going to look to hurt you. He has power in both hands. Okay, so whenever he throws either hook, it looks like it's going to hurt. We've seen him stop people. He's a very dangerous fighter. He beat the American to qualify, Raheem Gonzalez, who Americans seem to think was one of their big chances. He's a World Championship bronze medalist from 2021 in the weight below. He's a fighter I'm a big fan of, but again, we'll see how the draw goes for him.
So just a quick one. When you're judging amateur fights, it's obviously very different to pro fights. You say that he doesn't throw very often, but he hits hard. Is that surely going to be a big issue if someone's just outpointing him and he lands the better shots over 3 rounds, but if someone's landed 4 times the amount of punches, they're going to go through?
100%, and I think you'll find occasions where that's happened. I think you can find fights where he has lost fights that he, looked like he was landing massive shots, and you're going, well, he's definitely hit him harder, but he's been outworked. So, that's the risk of his style, right? So some judges will prefer. Personally, when I watch boxing, I like to see the big shots. I will if in a close round, I'll tend to err to the bigger shots. But it would not surprise me if he goes out of this Olympics in a fight and he's maybe knocked someone down. It could be that type of thing where he has landed the bigger shots, but someone has thrown 60, 70 punches more, and they get the decision based on that. So that is the game he plays. But it's going to be what the judges like, and we'll never know. One judge can score it one way, and another day a judge can score it another way. Another fighter who is maybe going to cause a bit of a surprise is Christian Penales. He's from the Dominican Republic. Again, not a country known necessarily for their amateur boxing, but he beat Gazamedov Jalidov to qualify, who has impressed over the last few years, would have been considered a bit of a shoo-in to get here. He also, at the last World Championships, lost to Iman Kataev, who went on to become world champion, and was the Olympic bronze medalist at the previous Olympics, at Tokyo Olympics. I thought he deserved to win that fight. He's a very awkward fighter. He sits there with the shoulder roll, the low lead, the lead by his knees, with the right hand there, looking to shoulder roll his opponents, looking to counter. He's not going to throw many punches either. He's awkward. He's got long arms. I would not want to draw him. He's one of those that you're going, oh no, I don't have to fight him. I'd rather fight someone a lot more standard. He's not going to be that. He's going to give anyone a difficult night. The final fighter I'll mention is Hussein Aishash from Jordan. Again, not a hotbed of amateur boxing. He was a 22 Asian champion, and he's moved down in weight. So he's actually come down all the way from super heavyweight. So at the 2016 Olympics, he lost to Tony Yoka, and he's come down from super heavyweight all the way down to under 80 kilos. So fair bit of weight loss there. He's another one though. He's been impressive. He's medalled at Asian Championships, like I say, winning in 2022. And he's going to come forward, try and throw combinations. He's got a tight guard, so he's not one of these who's going to have his hands low. He's going to be tight, and he's going to try and make you beat him, because he's going to come forward and put pressure on you. And if you're not willing to kind of make him miss and make him pay, he's going to potentially cause an upset here.
Have you seen him fight at this weight before?
I have, yeah. So he's been at this weight class for a few years now. So
how's he looking at this weight class?
He looks fine. In fairness, he didn't ever look fat, let's say, but you would never look at him and go, you've cut everything that you can. He used to have quite doughy arms, whereas now he looks more cut. The arms, there's a lot more definition there. So yeah, it's not. You don't look at him and go, oh, you look skeletal. He looks good for the weight. He's just naturally, I think, over time as well. That's a long period. Like 2016 was when he fought at super heavyweight. That's 8 years ago. I think if you do have a bit of weight on you over 8 years, you can lose 20 kilos.
So will we see the best version of him at this Olympics?
I think so. I think he's got more of a chance than he ever has previously. I mean, he lost in that quarter-final, so he wasn't far away from a medal, given that semi-finals you get a bronze. So, he's not been far away. But yeah, I think he's at his most dangerous at this weight. The only thing is, I'd say this weight is one of the stronger weights. If I was ranking the weights, this I think is the strongest one that I've spoke about so far, and I think is one of the better weights. So whether or not that means he doesn't win a medal and he loses to one of the better fighters that I've potentially already mentioned is another question. But yeah, I think this is him at his best, basically.
Great. So last question, going into that, who would you say is the best underdog in the division that could cause an upset, and who would you say is the clear favourite? I
like John Joho, and I don't think most people would consider him a favourite, but I really like watching him box. I think you obviously mentioned that he can be outworked, and that's a definite thing that can happen. But I think he seems to almost lull opponents to sleep. I don't know if you've ever had it before when you've had a fight, and you kind of get stuck going at someone else's pace. I think that can happen to a certain extent, and then he does land with such power that he's not only going to cause an impact to judges' eyes in that way, he can also stop people. There's a definite chance. Even someone like Kisniak, as referenced, he was stopped in the last Olympic finals. If those two fought, John Joho is one of those that I could see beating Kisniak. He's the man that I will predict for gold, but I can see how he loses. I can see how John Joho especially is someone that gives him trouble. I think Lopez, when you get to a certain age, you can no longer do I'm going to turn it on for this tournament. It'd be great if he could, because again, it's always fun to watch a Cuban at their best. But I think Lopez will lose to Kisniak in the semi-finals, depending on the rest of the draw. And then we'll see who comes through the other side. It could be Jong Joho, it could be the Chinese fighter, or it could be Oral Bay if he gets a nice draw.
My name is Dennis McCann, professional boxer for Frank Moore and MTK Global. This is Fortress Boxing. A lot more protection. It's a no-brainer. Around your thumbs, around your knuckles, around your wrist. That's exactly where I have the problems at. They're very compact, so I feel like I'm punching hard with them on as well. And I feel like when you got sparring 14, 16 ounce gloves, the smaller wraps can't really. They're too small for the gloves. That makes sense. So these are a bit bigger, and they're getting the gloves a bit more, making them more compact.
1, 2, hook, go. We are going to discuss the under 71 kilo division. Now this is one of the maybe more open divisions because it doesn't have a standout really. The current world champion is Aslanbek Shaimburganov from Kazakhstan. He's the current world champion. He won that in 2023. He was also the Asian champion in 2022. He's a classy Kazakh. So he's gonna put all the punches together well. He's gonna edge forward. He's quite tall. Not a giant for the weight, but he tends to be taller than most opponents he's boxing. And he's gonna march forward with his nice jab. Again, a nice boxer to watch. One of the guys that he's gonna come up against, who would be considered a massive contender, is Azad Kujar Moydin Kujayev from Uzbekistan. If anyone from Uzbekistan is watching, I apologise for the pronunciation. He was the 2023 world champion at the division below, so he was the under 67 kilo world champion. Typical Uzbekistani. I'm gonna repeat it again. He's a southpaw. He's got low hands. He feints. He's gonna want to draw you in. He's gonna stand there. He's gonna be moving. He's very flash. He's the type that celebrates whenever he lands a shot. He celebrates, puts his hand up. He's a fun one to watch. They had a fight last year, and Shaimburganov, the Kazakhstani, stopped him. Just the onslaught. He hit him with one big shot in the first round, which caused a standing count, and then stopped him in the third round. So he's got a bit of an edge if them two clash again. Another world champion in this weight class was Seken Okazawa. He was a world champion in 2021 and also won at the 2023 Asian Games. He competed at the last Olympics where he lost to Ronil Iglesias, who went on to win the Olympics, beating Pat McCormack. He's awkward fighter to watch. Flashy combination puncher. He's got fast feet, fast hands, likes to work at a decent pace. I think he's got a decent chance here.
Pat was the number one seed, right?
Pat, yeah, and Pat was the heavy favourite. I thought, especially with the way the draw opened up, he got a nicer side of the draw. He was expected to win. Iglesias in the final was past his best. It was a bit of a disappointment, really, how he performed in that final. I expected him to win, and yeah, he was the best. No no one as good for Great Britain this year, but we've got Lewis Richardson competing. Everyone, all the British fighters who speak about him always mention his ring IQ. So that's the first thing that you hear. When other British fighters speak on him, they always mention how good his ring IQ is, how intelligent he is in there. He's a southpaw, but he can be hurt. He was stopped at the Commonwealth Games by a Scottish opponent, Sam Hickey. He's another British fighter. I'd be surprised if he medals. It obviously would be nice, but I'd be shocked. Another medalist from the last Olympics was Aidan Walsh. So he lost to Pat McCormack in the semi-finals at 69 kilos. He is often in big fights. He can often get too defensive. So when he is on the attack, he uses his length well. He's got fast hands and is a decent punch picker. However, you often see him retreat into his shell a little bit, which I don't think brings his qualities out to the best. So if he does that again, I think he'll probably lose. He maybe got a little bit lucky at the last Olympics with the draw, but obviously that can happen. So he's another possible contender. We've also got Amari Jones, so an American. He's young, he's only 21, and he was a 2021 World Championship silver medalist. So if you think 3 years ago, it would have been 18. So to win a silver medal at that age shows how talented he is. He's a flashy American, as they tend to be. He's very fast, switch hitting. He's going to keep his hands low. He's actually got a karate background, so he started doing karate and then got into boxing, and you can sometimes see that with how he bounces with the hands low. But yeah, he's athletic. He can get caught square though, so he sometimes brings his feet together, which leaves him quite hittable. So yeah, that's a bit of a negative that we'll see with him. We've got a couple of other European contenders. Nikolai Tertian, okay, he's from Denmark. Not a boxing powerhouse by any means, but he won the European Games in 2023. He's a classy southpaw. He's quite powerful, and again, he's going to look to move forward. He's going to keep his head moving at all points. I think he can be actually a big danger in this weight that people wouldn't necessarily expect. Not only because he hasn't necessarily got kind of any massive world championship results, he's also from a country that doesn't tend to produce incredible boxers. Denmark aren't known for it. One of the home fighters will be Makan Traore. So he was a semi-finalist at that European Games. He's accurate, powerful. He's going to look to counter-attack. However, I'm going to point out the negative with him is his form this year. He's had 5 fights and he's lost 4. Not the prep you want heading into the Olympics.
How did he get into the Olympics then? Because I know a lot of people that have won loads that lose one fight and they don't qualify.
So a lot of it... So he got through the regional qualifiers. Because he made the European Games semi-final. That allowed him to qualify for the Olympics. So that was in 2023. So a lot of the qualifiers were done. All the continental qualifiers were done in 2023. And then this year there were 2 qualifying tournaments: World Qualifying 1 and World Qualifying 2. Very catchy names. But if you hadn't qualified in continental tournaments, you went through those, and you had to fight everyone potentially from any country in the world. And it was an open draw, and whoever you got, you got. So he'd already made it through because he qualified in the continental tournament last year. I will also mention Nishant Dev. He was a bronze medalist at the 2023 World Championships. He's a southpaw. I feel like I bring up lots of southpaws, which Ash will like. But yeah, he's fast movement, fast hands. He's got some decent wins this year, including beating Lewis Richardson. I will also point out again, the number 1 seed is Shannon Davey from Australia. I don't know what he's done to deserve the number 1 seed. Maybe he proves me wrong, and maybe he wins a medal here. But yeah, the fact that he's number 1 seed is bonkers. He's not done anything on the world stage to prove he's good enough for that. The final name I'll mention is Marco Verde. So he's Mexican. Won the Pan American Games where he beat Amari Jones, the American fighter. Not to use the stereotypes, but he feels like your typical Mexican fighter. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to come forward. He's got lots of heart. He's quite hittable. But yeah, he's just going to keep marching forward. He wants to get to the kind of inner range and trade, and that's where he had lots of success against Jones. When they were on the outside, Jones got the better of it. As soon as they got to that mid-range, he was able to land his shots, and Jones was nowhere near as comfortable. He's going to be trouble for lots of people in this draw because he is just going to come forward and keep throwing punches. He's also a southpaw, which are always awkward. Overall, I think this is one of the more competitive weights. There's no standout fighter. You'd think this probably comes down to either the Uzbeki or the Kazakhstani, just based on their heritage and kind of previous results. but it wouldn't shock me if we get a surprise at all in this weight division. The next division we're going to touch on is the 63.5 kilo division. So I think this is one of the weaker divisions in the Olympics this year. The division last year was won by Andy Cruz, okay, who was at the time considered the pound for pound number one of amateur boxing. Flashy Cuban, incredible boxer. He has escaped Cuba, so he will no longer be boxing amateur. We've seen him in the pro ranks. He's with Eddie Hearn, I believe. He's had a couple of fights. The person he beat in that gold medal fight was Keyshawn Davis, who's also gone pro, I think with Top Rank. So neither of them will be in the Olympics this year, and it's left kind of a clustered division where no one is a real standout. The other factor that I'll mention is Batashuk Shinzoreg, the Mongolian, who I would have considered the favourite for this division, has failed a drug test, so will miss the Olympics. Whether or not that was why he would have been considered the favourite, with potentially the drugs in him. Potentially that was why he looked like the number one. But
Do you know what drug it was? Was it like recreational, or was it performance enhancing?
It was a performance enhancing drug. So again, that was probably why he looked like a standout on this division. Instead, I think the favourite will probably be Sofiane Omaha. One of the reasons he'll be favourite is he's French, and obviously being in Olympics in France, you'd imagine that he gets any close decision. He won an Olympic medal back in 2016. He was a silver medalist, and then in Tokyo he was stopped by Keyshawn Davis. That was a bit of a surprise. He was expected to do well, although it was an incredibly tricky draw against Davis, who obviously went on to win silver. He's a three-time world champion, so he won world titles in 2017, 2021 and 2023. He's another one that is not a fun watch. He likes to make fights awkward. He's hard to hit. He tends to try and always finish exchanges, so he tends to try and be the last one to hit. But he's going to be awkward. He's going to be tricky for anyone to beat. He's tricky for people to hit. He's just defensively quite solid. At home, I wouldn't be surprised if any close decision goes his way. The other person who will be considered a real contender is the current world champion, which is Ruslan Abdullayev from Uzbekistan. I'm going to repeat it again. He's sharp, he's accurate, he's got quick hands, lots of punch variety. He works the body really well. So out of all the Uzbekis, he's maybe best at working the body. He's happy to go to the body, and he'll do it in preparation for later in the fight, so he can come back up to the head. So you often see him in round one digging the body with hooks, digging the body with jabs, in order to work his way up. He's only 21, so he's another young fighter, and it wouldn't surprise me if, as with many of the Uzbekis, if he turns pro and is back for the next Olympics as well. You've also got Bakhador Usmanov. He was also at the last Olympics and is the 2019 Asian champion. He lost in the semi-finals of the World Championships last year, so he's a bronze medalist. He's had 8 pro fights. Initially, he was signed through MTK. I don't know where he is now, but initially with MTK. He wants to come forward. He's going to use his pressure, his combination puncher with pretty good head movement. He's had good results over the last 12 months as well. He's a fighter who's lost to Chinzarag, who has reference is been banned for drug taking. So aside from that, he's not had many defeats, which in theory would put him in a good position for this division. You've also got Erislandy Alvarez. Now, he's one of the young Cubans, so he's not competed at an Olympics, but he did beat Lazaro Alvarez at the trial, who has previously competed at lots of world championships, lots of Olympics. He was runner-up last year at the 2023 World Championships at the under 60 division, so he's moved up. He's nicknamed the Threat, which is quite a nice one. He's got flashy footwork, but unlike most Cubans, he is happy to get into a brawl. So he is going to be happy if you want to exchange with him. He's not going to move. He will stay in the pocket and he'll have a bit of a brawl with you. One negative that I noticed in the qualifying tournaments was he was cut twice. So he was cut in one qualifying tournament, and then he was also cut at the second qualifying tournament. With the Olympics being over a short period of time, you're going to have lots of fights. If he does get cut early, is that going to linger? Is a bit of a negative, and it wouldn't shock me if he gets a cut in the first or second fight that causes him problems as he goes through the rounds here.
Do you think certain fighters are more prone to getting cut compared to others?
I think definitely. I think as well, I think once you get a cut, you're more likely to get cut there. I think just the skin, the way it heals, I think it always allows. There's certain fighters, right? I'm sure you can think of some professionals, and you just know if he gets hit, he's going to cut. There's certain body types that seem to never cut. I think he is. I think once you start to get cuts, you're always going to get cuts, and hopefully not, because it's always a shame, right, if someone gets eliminated because of a cut that's happened a
Especially
few
if
fights.
they win that fight.
Exactly. So you see sometimes someone goes through and then they're ruled out of the next fight, and someone gets a bye. It's always horrible, but yeah, I do believe that once you get cut, you're more likely to kind of continue getting cut. You got another fighter who's fought as both a pro and an amateur, and Harry Garside. He medalled at the last Olympics. He won bronze, but he's not been seen much in an amateur ring since then. He's 3-0 as a pro, so started, but nothing special. I wasn't a massive fan of him heading into last Olympics. I thought he got a few lucky decisions through the way, but he's a southpaw. He keeps that lead hand low. He's going to be triggering, waiting for you to open up opportunities so that he can land his shots. I think he'll lose against most of the top fighters in the division, but as reference, he does have quite a solid record. You've got Wyatt Sanford is the number 1 seed, and now I've been quite critical of some of the number 1 seeds. I do think it's a bit of a surprise that he's a number 1 seed, but I don't think it's outrageous as some of the ones I've mentioned earlier. He is someone that I'd probably recommend watching. He tends to be quite, in this division anyway, he tends to be quite exciting. So he's just going to come forward. He's a big southpaw. He's muscular, so he's not built kind of long and lean like someone like Omaha is. He's big. He's going to come forward. He's just going to force you back. So he beat Lazaro Alvarez at the Pan American Games, which he went on to win. He just uses power and physicality and was like, I'm bigger than you. I'm going to bully you, which is, quite fun to watch. He's going to keep going. He's not going to, you're not going to get an awkward fight with him. It'd be interesting how someone like him comes up against someone like Omaha, who doesn't really want to have that kind of fight, and I'd be interested to see how those two match up in the ring. A couple more that I'll mention. You got Lasha Gurulai. He's Georgian, again not necessarily a hotbed, but it does come from the Soviet boxing system. He's a double world championship bronze medalist, so he's won those at the welterweight division, and then last year at the European Games he was runner-up. He's quite tall, he's long arms, he's awkward looking, he's, again, I think he's a bit of a stiff mover, and because he's got the long arms, it doesn't look like most boxers look. He's not going to throw massive combinations on the outside. He tends to try and land one big shot, but then when he's on the inside, he's a bit happier to work from there. Again, he's got kind of lots of wins over other people who are in this competition. The one that he doesn't is Sofian Umaha, the Frenchman, who I've kind of referenced as favourite. Final one I'll mention is Radislav Rosanov. He's a Bulgarian. He's only 20, so he's quite young. He's come up from 60 kilo division, but he's a southpaw and he had a great youth pedigree. So he's got lots of experience in youth competitions where he did very well. He's short, squat and compact, but he's explosive. Oftentimes he'll only throw one shot, but he's got the ability to land shots that most others don't, because he's quick and explosive enough to get there, whereas you'll see lots of other fighters in the division wouldn't be able to land the shots that he lands. I'm not sure he'll cause a surprise, but he could be one if the draw breaks right. It causes a bit of an upset. Overall, though, this is one of the weaker divisions, and I'm not a massive fan of pretty much anyone in this division, unfortunately. Next category we've got is the under 57 kilos, is the way I used to box, so it's always one of my favourites. And I think we've got quite a good competition this year. It's headlined probably by Abdulmalik Khalakov, who's another Uzbekistani fighter. He is the current world champion, having won silver at the 2021 World Championships when he was at the higher weight class at under 60 kilos. He actually lost to Sofian Umaha, who I've mentioned is the potential favourite of the division above this one. He's won the Asian Championships, he's won the Asian Games. He's slick, smooth, switch hitter. He's going to keep those hands low. He's flashy. He's fun to watch. I'd really recommend that people who want to watch amateur boxers watch him. He's a good one to watch. The one thing with him is at times he's shown a bit of a weakness with his gas tank. So there are maybe certain fighters in this division who, if the draw breaks right, can beat him. One of those is Mahmoud Sabrikhan of Kazakhstan. Now, he was the world champion last year at the 54 kilo division, so the division below. And in 2021, he was the silver medalist at that weight. He is going to come forward. He's going to put it on you. He's going to throw lots of punches. He's looking for a physical, scrappy contest. He's one of those that I think will trouble Khalakov. the only thing about him is he was potentially lucky to qualify. I did not think he deserved the decision that he got in the qualifying tournament, and that's kind of one of the only times we've seen him this year. So is he in good form? It's hard to tell. It's been a few months in that qualifying tournament, and as you referenced earlier, anything could have been happening in training. But yeah, if those two draw each other, he's going to take it to Kalikov, and I think he'll be one of the men that can put him under pressure. We've also got another world champion in the field. 2021 World Championship was Jamal Harvey from America. He's another young American. He's only 21. He has been considered by lots of Americans as their standout fighter of this tournament, and he's been kind of considered their next big thing coming from the amateur ranks. So when Keyshawn Davis left, he's kind of stepped into that void as being their star. Again, you know, you can stereotype quite a lot of these fighters, in that a lot of the American fighters fight in the same way, a lot of the Uzbeki fighters fight in the same way. He's quick, he's got his head movement, he's happy to switch hit, he's going to look to counter punch though, and he's a dangerous one.
Where's he from in America? Do you know?
I did not know that.
No.
I did know that. Yeah, I did know that, but I don't know that right now, which is what we need. So yeah, he at the Pan American Games he beat Sadiel Horta, so the Cuban. So yeah, he's quite a dangerous man. Sadiel Horta was the World Championship silver medalist last year. He's again another of the young Cubans. So on this new guard of Cuba, he fights a bit more like some of the old guard though. So again, he's going to set traps, he's going to set feints, he's going to probably have his hands down, you know how the Cubans fight, and look to fight on that back foot. He's only 22, but he's a definite danger at this weight. Another Cuban who's fighting that is not representing Cuba is Javier Ibanez. He's left and now represents Bulgaria. He tends to do very well at the Stranja tournament, which for those who don't know is hosted in Bulgaria. So he tends to do well in his home country. I think he's a bit of a dirty fighter, not in a malicious way, but he's more than happy to leave his elbows in, leave the head in. He did win at the 2023 European Games. And yeah, he's a danger to anyone in this draw, because he is, you know, on his day, he's as good as anyone. He's electrifying. He's got power. He's got speed. He's a dangerous fighter. He's had some good wins this year as well. So he's beat a lot of the other names in this field, especially the European names. They've come up against each other, and he's got good, solid wins.
You wouldn't want to draw him early.
No, definitely not. So yeah, he's one of the ones that I'd want to avoid. I imagine that he ends up with a medal. He's actually the number 2 seed. So you know, maybe that's about right. You know, he's one of the ones in this draw that I wouldn't want to get. Jude Gallagher, another European. He's the Irish boxer. He won the 2022 Commonwealth Games. He's probably a little bit short of the top names in this division. He's a bit short, you know, he's lost to Jamal Harvey, he's lost to Javier Ibanez of Bulgaria, but he's got sound fundamentals, he's got a nice guard, he's always bouncing, he's always on his toes, always ready to go. If the draw is right, he's maybe Irish, the best Irish chance of the men. But yeah, he'll need a good draw. I don't think he will medal, but we'll see what happens basically. You've also got Carlo Parlam. Now he's from the Philippines. He medalled last time down at flyweight, so he lost in that final with Yafai. So he was there. It was a bit of a shock that he got there. Actually, he beat Shokhoibin Zorov, who was the favourite for that division. Yeah, he's growing into this division. He's still a bit short. So, you know, against some of the bigger fighters, against, say, Sabrakhan, who's the Kazakhstani, who's going to put the pressure on him and lean on him and do all of that stuff, I don't know if he's going to be a bit small, and I don't know if he's going to be overwhelmed by someone doing that. He's a nice little mover, though. He's fast. You know, all these boxers at this weight are fast. But yeah, he's going to be a tricky out for anyone. You've also got the Brazilian, so Luis Gabriel Oliveira. He's talented. He's, you know, going to have his low lead. He's a southpaw, but he will switch into both stances. But he's going to keep his hands low. He's got a long reach, but he doesn't always use it. So he's one of those fighters. He's going to keep the hand there, and you think, why are you not popping out the jab? You're long enough that you can just keep someone at the end of the jab. But no, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to hit you with the one shot and then get out of range. He can definitely be hit though, and against someone, you know, at this weight, you don't see many knockouts. But against some of the big hitters, you'll definitely see him caught and probably see that chin spun.
It's very strange for a tall person to just try and pot shot with their hands down.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's I think you tend to see it with quite a few of the Brazilian fighters, or maybe the Latin America is the way to put it, is that quite a lot of them will give up their reach to have the low hand and just land the flashy one shots. A lot of them, or quite a few of them do that. It's not what you teach. If you've got someone in the gym with those long arms, you want them pumping out the jab, keeping someone at the end of it. But yeah, it's definitely not how he thinks. He's happy to sit on the ropes. He's happy to sit there and just find shots. And he's quick, so he's within his rights to do that. But
when you get the likes of, like, do you remember Paulo Ayacuso is his name?
Yeah. Oh, big fan of him. Massive
great
fan.
Fighter, but where he was against the ropes and he was quite a long fighter, he sort of, it made the judges think that he wasn't busy enough.
Exactly, that you're giving up kind of the territory in the ring. Oh, I'm a massive fan of his. But he's another one that you think, oh, just stand there and just pop jabs out, and that that you're going to keep opponents at the end of it.
More of a pro style.
Yeah, exactly. So whether or not he turns over after this and looks a bit better in the pro games, but yeah, I wouldn't want to fight him, because I think you don't get the credit necessarily if you beat him, but he's awkward, and it's just going to be a difficult fight that no one wants. The final name I'll mention, who mentioned at the start of the tournament, at the start of this conversation, is the Ukrainian Idor Abduraimov. He's only 20. Again, it's blasphemy to bring up the names of Usyk and Lomachenko, but he has the B-grade version of that style. He's able to switch feet, he's stylish, he's able to hit you with any kind of shots. He puts combinations together that you wouldn't necessarily expect. It's not what you saw at your standard gym. He's going to double up hooks, hook to the body, hook to the head. He's going to switch here, he's going to move his head, he's going to avoid all your shots. And he qualified impressively. He beat Ulu and Yoel Final, and I'm not going to speak about them because they're not at the Olympics, but if you were making kind of the top 20 fighters in the division, they'd be there. He caused upsets in that qualifying tournament. He wasn't expected to win those fights. So I think that, brings him in on a good steading, where he's caused an upset. He's, here, he's going to hope to cause more upsets, basically. Again, I'm going to point out an issue with the seeding. In fairness, the 1, 2 and 3 aren't too bad. So you've got Kalikov, Ibanez and Harvey. The 4th and 5th seeds are Harry Senior from Australia and Dalapo Omale from Nigeria. Neither of those fighters deserves to be that highly seeded, in my opinion. What that does mean is those two are going to either come against each other in the quarterfinals, or they're going to be knocked out by someone unseeded. That's going to be a weak quarter. You want to get drawn in that quarter, because one of those is going to win a bronze medal. Final weight division of the male event is the under 51 kilo category. Now, this is the first one I researched. I feel like I know the most about this one. I feel like every fighter, you give 100%, and as it wears on, you're like, oh, I can't be able to watch any more boxing. But yeah, the favourite is another Uzbekistani fighter, just for a nice surprise for you all. It's Hasanboy Dusmatov. Few of you may recognise the name. The reason is he won gold at the 2016 Olympics. He also won the Val Barker Trophy, which goes to the best boxer. Back in 2016, he missed the Tokyo Olympics, but he has returned to amateur boxing. He's won the 2023 World Championships and also the Asian Games. He's another Uzbeki fighter who's gone to the pros, 6-0 and unbeaten pro. He's looking to win another medal here. He's a small fighter, but he's southpaw. He's going to put pressure on you again, and he's especially dangerous with his rear hand. So it'll be your left hand, the southpaw. He's going to look to loop that over the top of fighters, and that's something that tends to land. He's not been defeated since 2021. Okay, in 2021, he lost to a couple of the fighters in this field, but over the last couple of years, he's just been a non-stop winning machine. One of the fighters that he lost to in 2021 was Sakan Bibisanov. He was the world champion that year, which is when he beat Zoirov. He also has an Olympic medal, so he competed in Tokyo, where he lost to Yufai, although he did beat another contender in this field who I'll come on to in a second. He is a southpaw. He's tall for the weight, so this is the smallest weight division. He's going to be one of the taller fighters in here, and he's going to use that range, and he's going to look to throw sharp punches from out of range, and hope that no one gets to him, basically.
Do you think height really helps with the smaller weights when you are obviously at that lowest weight? If
I was in any weight, I'd like to be taller than shorter, right? I think it always helps. But yeah, the only thing is, because he's been around for so long, the majority of these guys have fought him. So it's not going to be necessarily a surprise. I think it's always nice, when you're a surprise and no one's fought you and you're going, oh, I'm tall. And, the fighters then have to discover how they're going to approach his height. Mm-hmm. Fighters won't have that against Bibisanov. He's been around on the circuit for a long, long time. As referenced, he's won medals. He won a world championship medal in 2019. most of these guys will have fought Babisonov, which I think takes some of that advantage away, because you know that you might have got the range when you first 3 rounds against someone. It takes a while to get that range. Now people have had the fight, they may come into it and be ready to the range they want to be at Babisonov. So I don't know if that lessens the advantage a little bit, in my opinion. One of the fighters he beat at the last Olympics was Bilal Benamar. Now he's the French fighter, and again we mentioned that French fighters might have an edge here. If anyone tends to get close decisions, it tends to be the home fighters. He's going to have the crowd behind him. They're going to be cheering every punch. He is a world championship silver medalist. So last year he lost to Dusmatov in the final. He then went on to win European Games. So he's got a good resume. He's also won medals in 2019 and 2021 at the World Championships. Both of those times were bronze medals. So he's consistently been a factor. As reference, competed in the last Olympics. He is a counterpuncher, so he's going to stay on that back foot. He's not tall like Babisonov, but he's long. So generally, he's going to wait for your punches. You're going to fall short, and then he's going to counter over the top with his rears. So yeah, he's a good fighter. Definitely a medal contender, especially in his home country. I'd always, you always want to give a bit of credence to that, just based on the judges maybe hearing the celebrations of the fans and thinking, oh, he's landed a shot.
And with the lower weights, obviously, it's going to be a lot closer.
Exactly. All these fights are going to be really close. They're going to be for a really high speed. They're going to be lots of punches thrown. It is going to be a bit of a, you can say some of the fights are coin tosses, right, when it comes to the judge's decision, because they are going to be that close. It depends what one judge likes compared to another judge. And as you've referenced, you're not going to land maybe massive shots. It'd be a bit of a surprise if you're seeing stoppages at this weight class, which again just narrows that gap. It just means that everything's a bit tighter. Whereas at heavyweight, you might see someone get dropped, and that would suggest the round goes that way. You're not going to see much of this at this weight division. Okay. You've also got Alejandro Claro, a Cuban. Again, he's a typical Cuban. He's got nice, beautiful feet. He fights out the southpaw stance. He can get a bit lead hand happy. So he's just going to keep with that right hand, but he can vary it up. So he's not just going to throw the jab. He's going to throw hooks. He's going to throw uppercuts with it. However, I would often like to see him implement the rear hand a bit more. Another of the contenders in this weight class is Amit Pangal. Now he's an Indian fighter who competed at the last Olympics. He was also the 2019 World Championship silver medalist. Since then, he's had a lot of battles about getting in the Indian team, and it was only the last qualifying tournament when he'd been picked. Before that, it wasn't expected to be him that competed for India at the Olympics, but he made it. He was given the chance, and he got through the qualifying system. So whether or not that was a good decision by the Indian team is a whole nother debate. He's one of those fighters who he's good tactically. He's fast, but he's gonna be defensive. So he's not gonna lead the dance. He's gonna wait for you to attack and then look to avoid your shots and potentially come back with a counter. He's another southpaw. There's loads of them, unfortunately.
Sounds like there's more southpaws than orthodox.
Yeah, I think.
In terms of the favourites in the
I think for some reason or another, at amateur boxing, you tend to find more southpaws than orthodox compared to, say, what the population would be. I think 10% of people are generally left-handed. I might be wrong on that. Mm-hmm. But I think there's more southpaws than that percentage. I don't know if it's maybe something to do with... Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe the advantage of, like, unusualness of almost, it's quite hard to find southpaw sparring. When we were at the gym at the University of Portsmouth, we were quite lucky. We had loads of southpaws somehow, but most places don't have that. So when you come up against a southpaw, it's quite difficult. If you've only fought kind of 3 or 4 southpaws compared to fighting 30 orthodox fighters, you're going to be better against orthodox fighters. It's just natural. It's just, practice, right? The more you practice something, the better you're going to be. So I don't know if that maybe at the amateur level is why southpaws, you tend to see them at a disproportion to how many you should see. I don't know if that's the reason, but yeah, I agree with you that there is more southpaws than orthodox, or not there's more, but there's a greater percentage than you'd expect for how many people are surely southpaw. But yeah, he's another one, small fighter, but yeah, he's definitely got a chance. He's not fought much on the international scene though, because India have dropped him, so he's not actually got much experience against a lot of these other fighters that we're going to see in this field. One of the other fighters that we've got is Patrick Chinyemba. Now, he's Zambian. He's probably the male African that has the greatest chance of getting a medal here. He's another fun fighter to watch. So he's got good power for this weight. He's one of the people that if someone does get stopped, I think it could be him. He's flashy, got fast feet, fast hands. He's rangy. He's got long arms, and he upset Alex Winwood in the last Olympics, and then he fought against Yafai and he lost to Yafai, but he was one of the men who made life really difficult for Yafai. I think Chinyemba could be a surprise medalist. It depends on the draw, but he's got the tools, if necessary, that he could win. He could definitely cause a few upsets here. Fatisan Panmot is another name that I'll mention from Thailand. He was the runner-up at the 2023 Asian Games. He qualified for the last Olympics but didn't compete due to injury. When he qualified for that, he actually upset Uzbekistani Zoirov in a bit of a surprise. He is another one who he's just going to move. He just keeps moving. He's a constant activity with him, but he can still land accurate punches. So whereas most people can't work at that pace and continue to find accurate punches, most people who throw lots of punches tend to be, tend to throw lots of punches but not land it. They don't tend to be efficient with it. He's efficient. He'll pick the punches and land good shots. However, against kind of the best names in this category, he's tended to lose. So he's lost a few fights to Dusmatov. He's lost to Banama.
Were they close fights?
They were close fights, definitely. He was definitely in these fights. But yeah, if he's going to have to get to another level is kind of the point I'm making there. If he is at the same level as he's been, he loses these big fights. If he's taken a step up, he's got a chance. You've also got Roscoe Hill. So he's the American. He's maybe the most unique out of all the Americans. So whereas I say the Americans, you can tend to stereotype what they're going to be like in the ring. He's unique. He is quite tall for this weight, and he keeps his hands low, and he relies on kind of confident reflexes with a head movement, and he relies on kind of big one shots. Okay, he's fun to watch. I'd recommend again that people tune in for him. He's a world championship silver medalist in 2021. He did lose in the first qualifying tournament to Nijat Hoisinov of Azerbaijan. I thought Hill actually won that fight, but Hoisinov caused that upset, and he also upset Deepak, who was the Indian who was originally picked over Amit Pangal to qualify. He's the under-22 European champion. He's only 21, and he's good at range, but what he doesn't like is when things get up close. He tends to hold. He's not good in the clinch. He'll tend to be overpowered. So if someone is struggling with him, I'd recommend that the coaches kind of suggest get up in him. He doesn't like it there. He doesn't want to fight at that close range. He wants to be at a distance where he can pick his shots. Another name to mention is Juanma Lopez of Puerto Rico, and boxing fans might remember his dad, Juan Manuel Lopez. His dad was a world champion a few times, one of the most powerful fighters. He had an unbeaten knockout streak, which got to kind of the mid-20s at one point. But he's the youngest boxer to qualify, so he qualified when he was only 18. He's very quick. He's a southpaw. However, the footwork is something that isn't quite at the top level at this point. His feet often look lost. You see him cross over his feet. You see him get square on. However, he's definitely a name that we should remember. He's only 18, so he's got a long prime ahead of him. Those are the main contenders for that weight. I think Dusmatov deserves to be the favourite. He's hardly lost since 2021, so I think he's going to be the one that everyone has to avoid. Again, we do have another seeding issue where the 4 and 5 seeds are not particularly impressive. So you've got Alcantara from the Dominican Republic and Yusuf Chofia. They're the 4th and 5th seeds. So those two in theory are going to face each other in the quarterfinals unless upsets happen. Neither of them would be on kind of the top 10. If I rank the top 10 fighters in this division, neither of them would be there. So that's potentially a weak quarter that someone is going to take advantage of to get a medal.
So just to go over a few questions about the men's categories, if you were to recommend exciting fighters to watch, who would you suggest?
Yeah, I think with all boxing, it comes down to who you like as a fighter. So, I mean, if you like aggression, you want to watch someone like Wyatt Sanford, Marco Verde, or, the prime of that kind of style is Alexander Kisniak. They're going to throw loads of punches. They're going to come forward and brawl. They want to have a fight with you. If that's what you want to watch, then, go for those. I mean, the Uzbekis, as reference, they have a very kind of pronounced style. They all box that same way where they're going to be triggering, they're going to sit there, move like that, and they're going to land flashy punches. So like Kalikov, Abdullayev, they're very exciting. out of the Uzbekistanis, the one that I find most exciting to watch is Mudkin Hajayev. Again, apologies to any Uzbeki fans. As referenced, Abduraimov, the Ukrainian, he has that Ukrainian style, which I personally is something that I quite enjoy to watch, because he's got flashy feet. He's looking to land lots of different punches, which I find exciting. The other one I would recommend is John Johu, the Thai fighter that I mentioned at 80 kilos. Just because he throws with such power and such bad intentions, that's always something that I enjoy to see. Someone who just wants to land big shots. Again, the Cubans, you can stereotype the Cuban fighters if you like that kind of flashy back foot defensive boxing. They're the other ones that I'd recommend. But yeah, it's all personal with that.
Who is the most likely to get a gold medal in the men's contest, to name a few? Yeah,
so Jalilov is the standout, the heavyweight, the super heavyweight. I'd be amazed if he doesn't win it. The two scenarios are that someone lands a fluke, or someone lands a punch and it just catches him and he gets knocked out, or a cut or something like that occurring. He'd be the one that, if you have to pick one, he's going to win a gold medal. I think Umahal will probably win at the 63.5 kilo division, especially being in Paris. If it wasn't in Paris, I'd maybe otherwise. I don't actually think he's the best fighter, but at home, I think he's going to get kind of any tight decision. Those are probably the two standouts in terms of, almost definitely going to win their weight classes.
Can you summarise up the British expectations?
On the men's side, I don't think we should be that hopeful. Delicious Ori is probably the man who's got the biggest chance of getting a medal. As referenced, he's unseeded, so it depends on the draw. If he ends up, fighting Jalilov in the first round, it's going to go badly. If you can avoid kind of Jalilov, then he's definitely got a chance of getting a medal in that division. Lewis Richardson, it tends to, lose to the top fighters. I'd be surprised if he won a medal. Pat Brown, I think there's a chance, as referenced. He's got the style where he's just tricky. You just don't like to fight someone who's going to come forward with power. It's not a nice style to deal with. So he's got a chance. He's good enough if the draw breaks right. As always, that's going to be so key for the British fighters, because I don't think any of them are top 5 in their division. They have to get nice draws. If they get bad draws where they fight, the presumptive gold medalist, they're going to lose. If they get a draw where, they've got the 10th seed and the 15th seed, they can get to a medal. It just depends on the luck of the draw. That is so key for the British fighters. We won't be able to really analyse them until that happens.
Mm-hmm. What boxers going into this would you say are underrated and have a very good chance?
Yeah, so I think kind of as we went through, we touched on the guys that I think are a little bit underrated. So I quite like Jong Johu, as referenced at 80 kilos. It is such a tough division, is the only negative to him. In terms of the heavyweights, as referenced, I think Terramano Jr. is the second best, but he's just got that tough side of the draw where he's not going to win a medal if he can't beat Jalilov, which is obviously unlikely. At 71 kilos, it was Taturyan, who I think he's not necessarily going to get the respect that his resume suggests to me that he deserves. I think he's someone who people aren't going to pick but can go far. I think it wouldn't shock me if he gets to kind of a medal fight, a bronze medal, maybe even a gold or silver if the draw goes right. At the lower weight classes, I think almost in some senses Abduraimov, the Ukrainian who I mentioned, can be a surprise. With all of these categories, as much as we go on about the favourites, there's always upsets. There will be upsets. If there weren't upsets, we wouldn't have the fights. We just go, who do you think's going to win? And we'd 1, 2, 3, 4. Last year, the people who won medals didn't go into that Olympics necessarily expecting to. There were a few, but in the, when your fire won, your fire would have been about 5th or 6th favourite. And the man he beat in the final, Palam, would have been even lower down. There are surprises. Surprises are going to happen. They're definitely there. It's just about picking them and maybe seeing stylistic matchups and then giving it a go from that point about who you think style is going to give someone else trouble. Even someone like that Luis Oliveira with the range but doesn't use it with his low lead. He's awkward. He could cause upsets. If he causes one shock against maybe Jamal Harvey, and they've had 4 contests and they've both won 2, Jamal Harvey is rated a lot higher than Oliveira. They both beat each other twice. Oliveira is someone who, he can beat Harvey. He's done it twice before, and then it doesn't take much from that point to get a medal. There are going to be shocks. Someone that we haven't talked about is going to win a medal. It's just how it goes.
Have you got any betting tips?
Yeah, I mean, betting is always a tricky one because you have to win so many fights, So you've got to win 4 or 5 fights. As referenced, I think Tertian, the Dane at the 71 kilo division, is an underdog who's not most people might not know him, and it's a pretty open division. You've got the Kazakh favourite, but if you can get each way, he's currently 12 to 1, on Sky Bet. If you can get each way on that, where you win money if he wins a medal, you're absolutely laughing. I think he's got a serious contender. With all of the, with any betting, you want to wait until you see the draw. If he ends up that he's got the Kazakh in round 1, it's not going to be such good advice. But if he's got a draw where he can get to the final, I think he'll make the final. You've also got Dusmatov at the lowest division. He's 2.75 or 7 to 4 to win the gold medal. I don't see anyone beating him. No one's beat him since 2021. I don't see how he loses. I think at that price of the shorter favourites, he's the one that I would expect has a really good chance. At heavyweight, so the under 91 kilos, I'd be tempted to take on Julio Cesar La Cruz as referenced. I think he's a little bit past his best. He's not as fast as Muhadin. He's not as powerful as Mulajanov. They are they're longer odds, so they're 6 to 1 and 3 to 1 respectively. So 6 to 1 Mulajanov, 3 to 1 Muhadin. I think one of them will win. If you want to take a pick, maybe pick one. Or you'd win money if you bet both and one of them wins. So, I think those are possible options.
Lastly, what country do you predict will get the most medals?
Yeah, I mean, Uzbekistan, have dominated men's boxing over recent years. I think they have the most medal chances. I think whatever weight division you point to, there is an Uzbeki fighter who will be in the top 10. They are just consistently solid. I think they've got kind of 3 or 4 really good gold medal chances, and I'm not saying they're all going to win gold. I think that's unlikely, but I think they're going to probably win a couple of gold medals, and you also get a couple of silvers or a bronze in there. Elsewhere, the Kazakhs are always strong, and you've also got the Cuban team. As always, it feels silly to write off any Cuban boxers. I think they'll end up with 2 or 3 medals. What colour? I don't know. It would almost, at this point, I'd be surprised if they win a gold. Cesar La Cruz and Lopez are their best chances, but they're in tough divisions. Those are the standouts. Maybe America, but they have lots of young fighters, and you never know. I'd be surprised if the Americans win lots of medals. They may end up with just 1 or 2 here. And now we're going to the women's division. So we're just going to start at the top again with the heavyweights. This is the under 75 kg division. Now this, for me, is the strongest weight division. This is really good weight division, actually. There's lots of strength in depth. There's kind of 10 to 12 names that I could go deep on and think, oh, you've actually got a really strong chance. One of the problems with finding out kind of the women's boxing is there's not as much tape available on YouTube, so you can't, watch all of these fights back, unfortunately, which makes some of this a little bit difficult. But you can see kind of all the contrasting form lines. And as reference, this I think is the strongest division. It's probably led by Tamara Thibault. So she's a Canadian boxer. She won the 2022 World Championships and was bronze medalist at the 2019 World Championships. Now, she competed in Tokyo and she has not lost since the Tokyo Olympics. She's a big boxer, although, as referenced, their heavyweights are all going to be decently sized. She fights out of that southpaw stance. She's a good punch picker. And because of her long arms, she sometimes looks a little bit awkward. It tends to be effective, but when you watch her, it can sometimes look a bit weird. I think it's just because she's got long arms. But yeah, she'd be my favourite for this division. I think she's got a serious chance. Another who competed at the last Olympics was Li Qian, so Chinese competitor. She won silver at the last Olympics and then had won bronze in 2016. So she's been around in the amateur ranks for a long time. She's also won World Championship gold in 2018. She was a silver medalist all the way back in 2014 and won bronze last year in 2023. She's a switch hitter, so she's comfy in either stance. She's quite rangy. She's 5'11". She's another one who I find her quite awkward to watch, but she's going to work off her jab. So she's going to just look to learn that jab and just keep pumping that out. Another Olympic medalist from Tokyo is Lovlina Borgohain. Now, she's the Indian representative. She actually medalled at the weight class below, so she won bronze. She's a current world champion, so she won the world championship last year. But as referenced, Tamara Thibault wasn't there, the Canadian, so she wasn't at that world championship. She also was runner-up at the 2023 Asian Games. She's a big puncher, and yeah, has always consistently been one of the better boxers in this division and the division below. So she's kind of got a number of good wins. One negative I will point out is that she's lost to quite a few of these girls this year. So she lost to Lee. She's also lost to O'Rourke and Ngamba. and I'm going to come on to O'Rourke now. So she's the Irish representative, Alfie O'Rourke. She competed at the last Olympics. She is actually more comfortable at the lower weight classes, but has kind of found her footing at this weight class by now. She was a 2022 world champion at 70 kilos, so again 5 kilos below this. Because she's kind of got that lighter frame, she's very bouncy, so she's always bouncing on her feet. She can sometimes look wild. She can often get caught into scraps, but she's got a dangerous straight right. So you've seen her hurt lots of her opponents with that. She's won European titles. She's a European Games winner. She's won at the European Championships. She's got a very strong record, so she's not lost this year or last year. So she's someone that I think can be a real contender. She's probably the standout Irish name in the whole field. So I think if Ireland get a medal, it will be from her. The other name that I mentioned that has beat Cain Lee this year was Cindy Ngamba. Now, she trains with the British team, but she's actually going to represent the refugee team. So she's a refugee from Cameroon. She is someone who, on the kind of professional circuit, they will talk about how good she is in terms of just her talent, and that she's class sparring. So a lot of the girls get her in for sparring. She's potentially the British talent at this Olympics who will go furthest in her career. So when it comes to pro, it sounds like she's going to have a professional style. It sounds like when she switches over, she's going to really excel. Another name I'll mention will be Sunniva Hofstad. So she's Norwegian. She's a world youth champion, so she's dominated kind of all the lower age groups. She only turned 20 this month, so she's literally turned 20. She's going to be in Paris. She's incredibly talented. It's just a question of how she's adapted to the senior ranks. Obviously, it's a different game to kind of when you're a junior. She's going to be up against kind of grown women with their grown women's strength, and whether she is able to adapt yet is probably the question. But over the next by the next Olympics, it wouldn't shock me if she's favourite to kind of win it all. She's going to sit there, she's going to feint. So she's, for her size, is really active with the feints, which you don't always see. But she is going to do that and look to move forward. She's going to press you and look for the mistake, look for the opening where she can kind of get in there. I think this year she has really settled in a bit more from the film I've seen. She seems to have settled into being a senior a bit more, whereas when she first turned over, she had a couple of losses. So she's lost to O'Rourke, she's lost to Cain Lee, and she's also lost to Elzbieta Wojciech. Now, she was another who was once upon a time an incredible youth boxer. So she won at the Youth Olympics. That was way back in 2014, though. She's been a senior for a long time and hasn't maybe lived up to that promise, which, potentially a bit harsh. But she's also going to sit there with hands low. She's a southpaw, but her best result as a senior was semi-final, so a bronze medal in the 2023 European Games. I'd be surprised if she wins a medal, to be honest. Another competitor will be Khadija El Mahdi. Now, she competed at the last Olympics. She comes down from heavyweight, so she comes down a division. She competes at the 81 kilo division, but it's not in the Olympics, so she comes down to 75. She is the current world champion in that division, and in 2022 was the silver medalist. She, as you can guess, is powerful. Coming down from that higher weight, she's powerful. She's not going to march forward, but she's going to wait for you to come into her and then look to land. She's got a strong jab, which tends to kind of dissuade opponents from attacking her, because she'll keep pumping that out. And like I say, she's coming down, so she's going to have power advantage over a lot of these competitors.
Did you say she's one of the favourites?
I think she's up there, yeah. But I think this is such a good division that, I think there's so many names. I think all of these names that I've mentioned have a real chance. So it just depends how the draw goes with this a little bit. And I know I keep saying that, but I think it is really important in this weight class especially. Another former world champion is Athena Bailon. Now, she won the 2014 World Championships. So she's experienced. That was 10 years ago. However, she's kind of had a new lease. She competed at the last Olympics, but she lost to Lauren Jones, the British girl who obviously won gold. But she's kind of had a new lease of life. She was silver medalist at the 2022 World Championships. She's an awkward fighter. She's rangy, tall. She's a southpaw, which is always awkward. But she will look to counter and then launch kind of really quick, dynamic attacks. So she'll wait for you, and then we'll try to, when you make a mistake, she'll try to kind of jump on that and really take advantage. Another and probably the final name I'll mention in this one is Caitlin Parker. Now, she was silver medalist at the last World Championship, so 2023 World Championship. She's medalled at kind of previous Commonwealth Games, so in 2018 and 2022. She also competed at the last Olympics, so it's quite a lot. I think you see it a bit more with the female fighters, where there's not such such a strong professional ranks, and they don't say get paid to the extent that the men do. It's not so lucrative to turn over. A lot of them are happy to sit in the amateur ranks, and you know, a lot of them, for a lot of these ladies, a gold medal is worth more than kind of being a pro. So you tend to see that we get lots of repeat competitors. But yeah, she's one of the classier opponents in this field. So she's got long straight punches, she's got speed, she's got good reflexes, and I think, yeah, she's going to cause lots of trouble for girls in this weight class. Again, we've got the seedings, so even now the quarterfinals look set to be exciting, and that's before you add in any of the unseeded fighters. So Li Kan, the Chinese fighter, will come up against Borgo Hain if the seasons go to plan in the quarterfinals. That is an open bout. I'd probably prefer Borgo Hain, but there's not much in that. The winner of that in the semi-finals will fight El Mahdi or Parker. Again, that's the strong heavyweight coming down against the classy kind of Parker. I think that's a really good bout if that does happen. In the other side of the draw, you've got O'Rourke, the Irish lady, against Bailon. I think O'Rourke should be favourite there. And then the other quarter-final would be Thibault against Michel. So she's a French fighter. Maybe a chance in our home crowd, but not someone I'm particularly big on. And that's, yeah, not including Cindy Ngagba. It's not including Hofstad. All these fighters who I think have a really good chance. So I think even from the quarter-final stage, there's going to be really good fights here. There's going to be absolute fireworks. Out of all of them, I like Thibault the most, the Canadian. As reference, she's not lost since the last Olympics. Probably my second favourite is O'Rourke, the Irish fighter, but those two are due to clash in the semi-final. So O'Rourke's, one of them is going to only win a bronze medal at best. So yeah, that Thibault would be my gold medal prediction. O'Rourke, unfortunately, I think she's the second best fighter. I think she'll only win bronze though. From the other side, all four of the quarterfinalists that the potential quarterfinalists that I've mentioned are strong, and it depends where Hofstad is drawn. I think if she's adapted to the senior ranks as well as she could, she's a serious danger, and she's, the person that no one wants to draw. You don't want her in the opening round. She's too good for that. Next division down is the 66 kilo division. Now this has my standout fighter that I mentioned to Ash at the start of the filming, Businez Sermonelli, the Turkish girl. She's a force to watch. As reference, she can do it all really. She can class it up when she wants to, but she really in her heart, she wants to go forward and have a fight with you. That's what she wants to drag you into. But yeah, she's the reigning Olympic champion. She's won world championships, so she won in 2019 and 2022. She did have a recent loss, so she lost last year in a bit of a surprise to Aneta Rygielska, who's a Polish fighter. She's probably, Poland's biggest chance of winning a medal. Maybe at lower weights have a couple. But yeah, she's another one. She's classy. She keeps her hands low. She, bounces on her feet and is happy to exchange shots with you. Looks to use her head movement. I'm a fan of her. She's quite tall for the weight. But yeah, she's a good one to watch. She boxes almost like Ukrainian style or the Uzbeki style, where their hands low, and she's just happy to bounce around and pick her punches. She's really nice on her feet. You've also got Angela Carini. Now she's a world champion, but at a slightly lower weight division. But that was back in 2019, in fairness. She's a southpaw, as referenced, always awkward. She's nicknamed the Tiger. But yeah, she's quite a classy operator. She's quite relaxed, hands are kept quite low. And yeah, she's very quick. So she's going to rely on those fast hands. If you throw 3, she's going to try and throw 4. She's going to try and outland you just with her sheer speed, basically. One of the favourites in the division is Amani Khalif. Now she's Algerian. She's Algeria's best chance of a medal. She initially won a medal at the last World Championships in 2023. However, she failed a doping test, and the medal has since been removed, but she's back for this competition. She did win a World Championship silver medal in 2022 down at the 64 kilo weight division, so she's 2 kilos higher here. But yeah, she does have the failed doping test, so again, depends how you consider that. Bit interesting that she's here when other people aren't. But yeah, she's a nice tall boxer. She's got nice movement, and she's going to look to pick you off using her height. She's got that range. She fights as you'd want a tall boxer to fight, not as we discussed earlier, where you let people come onto you on the ropes. Another impressive fighter here is Janjame Suwanafeng. She's a Thai fighter and won the silver medal at the 2023 World Championships after winning bronze in 2022. So she won bronze in 2022, improved to silver in 2023. The winner in 2023 was Yang Lu, so Chinese fighter. She also won the Asian Games. So yeah, she's got an impressive resume. However, she's definitely not unbeatable. I mean, even last year she lost to Amy Broadhurst, who's not going to be competing in there. She's also lost 2 fights to McCain, who's the American representative. And yeah, she's got a strong chance as well. The British representative here is Rosie Eccles, who also has European medals kind of coming out of her ear holes, as it were. She's won bronze at the 2023 European Games. She's silver medalist at the 2016 European Championships, bronze medal at the 2019 European Championships. You know, she's been in the GB system for a long time. She suffered some nerve damage before Tokyo, so it's impressive that she's made it back here. Her best shot is a right hook. She upset Amy Broadhurst last year in the qualifiers to be here. It was a bit of a surprise when she got that result. One negative about her, she's lost 4 straight this year. So her last 4 fights have been losses. Can't be good for her confidence coming in on the back of 4 defeats, and I'm not sure if I'd overlook her mainly based on that. You've also got Oshin Deryu, who is the European Games silver medalist in 2023. She's 19-0 as a pro, so she's won titles as a professional. She is 37, but has chosen to come back to the Olympics to try and get that Olympic medal. Chen Yen-chen of Taiwan also competed at the last Olympics, but she lost her opening bout in Rio. She's done well since, so she won a world championship in 2018 at 69 kilos and was the Asian Games semi-finalist in 2023. She's a classy competitor. She likes to switch stances, and she'll throw kind of all sorts of combinations. The person she lost to at the Rio Olympics was Borgo Hain, who I mentioned in the 75 kilo preview as one of the top fighters. So it wasn't a disappointing loss in Tokyo, and I wouldn't rule her out based on that defeat because she lost to such a classy operator. Final name I'll mention is Alcenda Panguna. She's from the Mozambique, so again, not a country that have any type of Olympic pedigree really. A runner about 15 years ago. They're not known for their Olympic medals. She has an outside chance. She won silver at the 2022 World Championships at light middleweight, so a slightly different weight category. But she's hit there. She's there. She's got potential. It would be a massive surprise if Mozambique won a medal. The last time they medalled was Maria Mutola, the 800-meter runner. But it's been 16, 20 years since she medalled. So it'd be a great news if Mozambique could get a medal for first time in a while.
I'll be cheering her on.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be a really nice story if she can get a medal. It's one of those that you like to see these nations come out and get a medal out of nowhere. So yeah, hopefully she does well.
So to summarise, who would you say is the ones to watch in this division? Who's most likely to get the gold medal?
Yeah, as reference, Business Seminelli is probably my favourite fighter in this Olympics. I thought she was magnetic. I thought she was incredible to watch last time. So I think she's going to win. She's barely lost over the last few years, and I think she's the favourite. As reference, Yang Lu was the world champion last year, so I think she's got a really good chance. She has a negative record against McCain, the American fighter, who aside from that I don't think is particularly special, but that's one that she'll be hoping to avoid her in the draw. Chen Yen-chen, the Taiwanese fighter, I think she's good enough to get a medal here. I've been really impressed with her whenever I've seen her. The other one that I mentioned is Ragielska, the Polish fighter. As long as the draw goes all right, because she's not seeded, I think she's got a serious chance of medaling. She's got so much offensively. She's so gifted. I think she's got a real chance of getting a medal as well. And we go on to the 60 kilo weight division. This has one of the standout fights. I don't think it's a particularly deep weight class, but it has one of the fights that I expect to be kind of the most notable fights in the Olympics, basically. Kelly Harrington is the reigning Olympic champion, so the Irish fighter. She has only lost once since the last Olympics, so all the way back in Tokyo. She only lost once since then. She's a world champion. She's tall boxer for the weight class. She keeps her lead hand low, and she's just going to look to keep picking her opponents off. Now, the fighter she beat to win that gold medal was Beatriz Ferreira. That is going to be the rematch, we hope. Those two are the two best fighters in this division as far as I'm concerned. She's a double world champion. She won in 2019. She also has won in 2023. She has gone pro, so she's been fighting with Eddie Hearn. She's 5-0 and is talked about kind of by all the big names in that division. So Caroline Dubois, that's the fight we're all hoping for. She looks like she's going to be a dominant professional. She's shorter than Harrington. She's a short boxer for the weight, but she's looking to move forward and put combinations together. She's skilled, heavy-handed, and relentless. It's such a good battle of styles when those two come together. You've got her coming forward, looking to put pressure on Harrington. Harrington is happy to sit on the back foot because she's got that size, so she's happy to pick shots. It was a really good fight in Tokyo, and I think it will be a really good fight in Paris. The only downside is they are drawn to fight each other in the semi-finals. So although you would expect that the winner of that fight goes on to win the gold medal, one of them will not win silver, one of them will win bronze, assuming they get there. I think that is something you need to set your recordings for. You want to watch that fight. It's going to be one of the stand-up fights of the Olympics between two of the better girls. You know, if you were pound for pound ranking these girls, these two are in the top 5. They're both quality. Harrington has proven it for years in the amateur ranks. Ferreira's starting to prove it in the pro ranks as well as the amateur ranks. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to those two clashing. Beside of them, the division as referenced is not as strong as some of the others in terms of strength and depth, but it's got such a good ceiling. One of those names I'll mention that will also add to the allure of the division is Estelle Mosley. Now, a few people will remember, she's the 2016 Olympic champion, so she was beating Katie Taylor. So she's 2016 won the Olympics. She then went pro, where she's 11-0. She's an IBO world champion. She was actually part of the power couple, the gold medal winning couple with Tony Yoka, but they've now split up. She's returned to win our home Olympics. She's a French fighter, and yeah, since coming back to the pro ranks, she had mixed results. It's not as impressive as it once was, but she was the European Games bronze medalist in 2023. So yeah, she will add to that allure, being a previous Olympic champion. Angie Valdez is a Colombian, so she won silver at the last World Championships and at the 2023 Pan American Games. She beat Estelle Mosley, but she's lost both her fights to Beatriz Ferreira. So both of those silver medals, she lost to Ferreira in the final. There's no shame in that. Valdez is not very experienced at this level, but she's come and she's adjusted straight away to the level, hence making 2 finals, winning 2 silver medals.
Was it close, the 2 fights, or...?
I think it was close in the sense that she didn't get destroyed, but you wouldn't have watched those fights and gone, Angie Valdez has won either of those fights. Mm-hmm. So she didn't look outclassed. That's probably a better way to put it. She didn't look outclassed by any means, but she didn't look like, oh, you're about to beat her. Mm-hmm. I'd still say there's a level between the two of them, but she's definitely, belongs in the ring of her. I'm sure there'll be some fights in this Olympics where you look at and go, that's a bit of a mismatch. It's definitely not that. She's good enough, despite her lack of experience, she's good enough to compete at that highest level. You've also got Oyeonji, so she competed at the last Olympics. She's another who beat Amy Broadhurst to qualify. So if you remember the controversy of Amy Broadhurst, who'd once represented Ireland, coming over to represent Great Britain at the last Olympic trials, the person who beat her was Oyeonji. Now she's been at a few Olympics before. She actually turns 34 at the Olympics, but she's a multi-time Asian champion. She's won bronze medals at 2 World Championships. She's another who's going to fight on the back foot, so in a similar way to Harrington, but without the size. She fights on the back foot where she wants to use her fast feet, basically. Agnes Alexiusson from Sweden. She's another who competed at the last Olympics. She's incredibly active. So I think she's had well over 200 amateur fights, so a massive amount of fights. If you look on her BoxRec page, it goes and goes and goes, even over the last few years. She's European Games medalist from 2019, but overall I think she's probably not good enough to quite win a medal here. She is mainly relying on timing, so she's looking to counter her opponents as they throw punches at her. Another European fighter who's got a chance is Donjeta Sadiku. Now she's from Kosovo, so she's one of a few medal hopes for Kosovo, and their best chances come in the judo competition, but they do also have a chance of winning a medal here. She was a junior World Championship silver medalist, but she has good wins this year, including twice beating Shona Whitwell. She won bronze at the 22 World Championship as well as the 2022 European Championship. The other bronze medalist at the 2022 World Championships was Alessia Messiano, so the Italian fighter. She was also a world champion back in 2016 at the lower weight class of 57 kilos. So she's someone who could potentially compete if everything goes right here. Yang Wenlu is the Chinese representative. She won the Asian Games in 2023, and she also won a bronze medal at the 2023 World Championships, where she lost to Valdez, the aforementioned Valdez. The other possible contenders, you've got the American in Jajera Gonzalez. She reached the semi-finals of the 2023 Pan American Games, losing to Beatriz Ferreira. She's going to come forward. She's a pressure fighter, so she's just going to look to put pressure on her opponents. But as reference, she's not necessarily as good as Ferreira, but I think she's got a possible chance if the draw breaks right. Chelsea Heijnen is another name I'll mention. So she won bronze at the 2022 World Championship at the weight division above, so 63 kilos. She tends to lose against the best girls, but if the draw breaks right, she's another who's got a possible chance here. Ultimately, this weight class, I think it comes down to Kelly Harrington against Beatriz Ferreira. That's a semi-final. Whoever wins that semi-final, I expect to go on and take gold. That's the best fight. I tend to prefer Ferreira's style, so they're coming forward looking to land big shots. That tends to appeal to me, and I wonder if with a couple of years more experience, she's got to the point where she'll beat Harrington. The one negative that I'll put in that is she has spent a lot of it pro. Has that maybe affected her in the for the Olympic game, where she's had to almost learn to control herself over longer distances? Will she be as ferocious over the 3 rounds, or will she still be able to press at the same rate? I do not know. That's the one negative I have towards her. Elsewhere, this could kind of go anywhere in terms of medals. Angie Valdez would have been my favourite to win another medal. However, she's drawn on the same side of the bracket as Ferreira and Harrington. So if those two, unless she can beat one of them, she's not going to win a medal here. That makes it quite open. And I wonder if kind of some of the Europeans can cause a bit of a surprise. So maybe Messiano, even Sadiku, the Kosovan. Estelle Mosley is the other one. She's obviously got the back class to do it, and at home in front of the French crowd. It wouldn't surprise me if she manages to get a medal here.
It sounds like you've got a very stacked division there. I know obviously you said you've got the 2 favourites in the semis, but there's a lot of medalists there. There's a lot of people that, to be honest, it's probably going to be a coin toss on the day and the draw, right?
I think that's a really good way of putting it, is that a lot of these are going to come down to coin tosses. I think, you've got the 2 really high class fighters, and then I think it steps down the level. I think the next set of fighters are a lower level. But as you say, they can all beat each other on their day. And they, a lot of them, if you look at their records, they've beaten one time and they've lost to another one, and so on and so forth. So it just depends on the draw. There might be certain fighters who are hoping to avoid other fighters just based on head-to-head records or styles. But I think this is open behind these 2, basically. I think it wouldn't shock me if you get a bit of a medalist that you're going, I didn't expect that. That can happen in this division because it is quite open. Next, we go down to 57 kilos. 57 kilos. This is another, I'd say, quite good weight class with lots of potential winners. The likely favourite and the number 1 seed is Yuting Lin. She's Taiwan, so Chinese Taipei, however you want to say. She's a double world champion, so she won world titles in 2018 and 2022. She's a double bronze medalist as well, so she won bronze in 2023 and 2019. She is a tall fighter, so she's going to use her reach, her height to look to counter opponents. She's got a number of solid wins over recent years. She has been defeated this year actually by Jocelyn Romeo, and Romeo is someone I'm not a huge fan of. So she's a Brazilian fighter. She's made quarterfinals at the last 2 World Championships. She's, for me, a bit too tight defensively, so she's very defensively responsible, so she doesn't get hit a lot, but what she's not so good at is opening her opponents up. So although she doesn't get hit much, she doesn't then take advantage and punish her opponents by hitting them. So I tend to find her contests aren't the most fun to watch, because it's mainly her defensive focus, and it means that there's just not a lot of clean punches, because she doesn't throw a lot of clean punches, and she also restricts opponents. She, as reference, has that win over Yuting Lin. She's clearly in good form at the moment. One of my favourite fighters in the division is Irma Testa. Now she's an Italian fighter, nicknamed the Butterfly. She competed at the last Olympics where she won bronze. She is the current world champion, so she won in 2023 after losing in the final in 2022 to Lin Yuting. She's won medals in European Championships, so 2022 and 2019. She's quite tall for the weight. She's got a strong jab, so that's her main punch. She's going to look to, throw the jab and really establish her dominance behind that. But she's combination thrower, so she puts lots of unique combinations together. The one negative, I think, is that against an aggressive fighter, she goes in straight lines, so she can be trapped. So if you're good at pushing the pocket against her, she's going to back up into the ropes. She had a very good year in 2023, where she's got lots of quality wins. Another person who was at the last Olympics is Michaela Walsh. So she's the Irish fighter. She's Commonwealth Games champion, so she won that in 2022. Again, she's got medals in all sorts of continental competitions. She's a double bronze medalist at the European Championships. She's won silver and bronze at the European Games. She wants to be at range. She's on her toes, so she's a bit of a bouncer. Quite a lot of the Irish team, actually, you see them bouncing on their toes. They're constantly on their toes, ready to go. She's an interesting fighter here, and her brother Aidan Walsh we mentioned as well. So a bit of a family affair again for those two. The Olympic silver medalist from Tokyo returns. So that's Nesty Petecchio. So she's from the Philippines. She was the 2019 world champion and won silver in 2014. Now, entering the last Olympics, I was not a massive fan. I didn't think she was going to go far. She proved me wrong. She won silver. She's short fighter, so she's only 5'2", which given it's 57 kilos is quite small. But she is looking to, get in, typical short fighter. She wants to get in close to you. She wants to land looping shots. She does have good head movement. And when she does get attacked, she is actually quite defensively responsible. So she's a pressure fighter. She beat Testa at the last Olympics. And as reference, given Testa can struggle with someone who comes forward, that's a bit of a nightmare matchup for her. So Testa will be hoping to avoid that. But yeah, that just depends on how the draw works. Karina Ibragimova is the Kazakhstani fighter. Now, she's won medals at the last two World Championships. So she won silver in 2023, losing to the Italian, and she was a bronze medalist in 2022. She's also won bronze at the Asian Games. Again, a negative that I'll point out is that this year she's had 3 fights. She's won 1, lost 2. It's quite hard to come into the games on that kind of record where, you've lost more than you've won. How's her confidence going to be? I think that's something that it's impossible to tell. But it's
she also lost to people that are competing at the games.
So she lost to Sandra Dralbik, was the stand-up name, the Polish fighter. She's lost to her, and aside from that, it was someone who's not going to be at the games. But they're not even the best names, which is the worry. If she lost to someone that I've maybe mentioned beforehand, or I'm going to mention, you'd go, okay, well, you've been mixing it in the highest level, and wins and losses can be exchanged. It's not been that. She's lost at a level that you probably wouldn't expect her to. You'd probably say she's above. So yeah, it's a little bit of a red flag in my eyes. You've also got Amina Zidani. So she's the French fighter. So again, will be supported by a home crowd. She's a World Championship bronze medalist from last year, and then she went on to win the European Games. She's been a pro fighter, so she is 5-0 as a professional. She doesn't have a great record against Testa. So the Italian lady, as referenced, is one of the favourites for this division. She's lost to her twice. So I don't know if that maybe is a bit of a negative for her. A few other fighters I'll mention. So Jasmine Lamboria is the Indian fighter. She won bronze at the 2022 Commonwealth Games and has reached the quarterfinal stage in the division above at the last 2 World Championships. If the draw breaks right, she's got a chance. Ezra Yildiz is a Turkish fighter. She's not one of the standout Turkish fighters that I've mentioned, but she's definitely good to watch. So she keeps her hands low, she's going to pick her punches, and yeah, she's happy to go either way. So if you want to come at her, she'll go backwards and she'll look to counter you. If you don't take the initiative, she'll take the initiative and march forward. She's fun to watch. Like I say, she's going to pick her punches. She's got nice speed. She's fun to watch. I'd be surprised if she medals, mind. And the final name I'll mention is Marcelat Sakobi Matshu. So she's fighting out of she's fighting out of the Congo, so the Democratic Republic of Congo. Again, a country not known for their Olympic pedigree in any sense. I assume it'd be the first boxing medal that they've ever won. She's a professional. She's gone 1-1, but in fairness, she's had actually, considering that she only had 2 fights, they've both been against quite good opponents. She's nicknamed the Queen, which I really like. And yeah, she's a good punch picker at range, but if you want to get in a scrap with her, she's going to oblige. So she's going to sit there and, if you want to brawl, she'll have a fight with you on that. Overall, my favourite in that would be Testa. I liked her entering the last Olympics, so I thought she had a real chance when she was a bit more of an unknown package, and she went on to win bronze. I think she's got a real chance here. Romeo, as mentioned, is not a fighter that I'm particularly fond of, but she is seeded, so she's seeded 4th. She'll come up against Khalid Halimi in the quarterfinals if the seedings go to plan, and she should win that fight. Also Lin Ting, so she's the Taiwan fighter. She's the number 1 seed. I expect that she'll do well. Whether she can win gold is another question, but I think she will be there in the medal shake-up. I'd be shocked if she doesn't win a medal to a certain extent. I would have predicted Ibragimova, the Kazakhstani, but just her record this year, I just feel like I can't, I don't know if something's wrong with her. Maybe she's just been off on those fights, but entering this tournament with that record is not particularly impressive. Yildiz, I just like watching the Turkish ladies fight as a general rule, so I hope she does well. Would be a bit of a surprise if she won a medal, mind.
Yeah, when you talk about form and people coming into it, you never know what's going on in their personal lives. Obviously,
100%.
when they're, especially in the amateur game, when they've got so much going on, they are still professionals in their own right 'cause they're elite.
Yeah.
So when you've got these people that might have lost 3 or 4 this year,
yeah,
maybe they've lost a relative, maybe they've had whatever going on. So it's very hard to pin down why, isn't it?
100%. And as you say, there could be so many reasons that we have no idea of. It could have been as simple as she's caught flu that morning and she's woke up and decided to give it a go. I don't know. And it's all you can do is look at the evidence you've got, right? So I've seen she's lost those fights, and to me that's not impressive. So I can base on that, and maybe she comes out in the Olympics and actually she looks unreal, and we're going, that was the anomaly. The anomaly was how she performed in those fights there. But it's hard to look at, and you've got to okay it in your head when you're predicting someone. You've got a list of all these fighters have negatives and positives, and you've got to kind of justify, actually, that's something I like, that's something I don't like. For me, if you're struggling this year, I'm not a particular fan of it. Like you say, it wouldn't shock me if someone comes out in the Olympics and they've not looked good this year and suddenly they look amazing. We've had rounds of sparring where you're told to practice a certain thing, and maybe it's just that she's trying to put into place a certain style. Maybe she's I'm going to try and fight on the back foot and see how I want to be, or fight coming forward. Maybe she's trying something different in the ring. You never know, but it's just something that I don't particularly enjoy, or I don't want to predict after they've had a poor record in this year, if that makes sense. So we move on to the 54 kilo weight division, so one of the lower weight divisions, and this has one of the Turkish fighters that I've kind of referenced, with them being a strong team. Now that's Hatis Akbas. She was the 2022 world champion. She's only 23, so she's still young, still improving. She did only manage to win bronze at the European Games last year, so she's definitely not unbeatable. One of the ladies who's given her problems and has beaten her the last 2 times they fought is Lenuta Perejok. So she's a Romanian fighter. She's probably, if Romania are going to win a medal, she's going to be the one who does it. She won silver at the 2022 World Championships and then at the European Games. She's very small, and I know this is a small weight division. She's very small. She's going to come forward and put pressure on you. That's how she likes to fight. As reference, she has 2 wins over Akbas in the last couple of years. And yeah, I think she's Romania's best chance at winning a medal. The other strong nation here is Bulgaria, represented by Stanmira Petrova, and they have lots of good fighters in the lower weight divisions. She is a world champion, but that was way back in 2014, so it was a long time ago. She's won European Games since then, so she was the one who beat Perejok in that European Games final. She's a southpaw, and she's going to use triggers, feints to work her way inside, and then looks to do her best work from there. She's had a very good year in 2023 and 2024, so she's had lots of wins in that time over people who are in this field, and she's the number 1 seed, and I think she'll expect to take home the gold medal. Britain have arguably their strongest representative here, so Charlie Davison. She took up boxing at the age of 8, but took a 7-year break before returning at the Tokyo Olympics. So she had a baby. She's a southpaw. She's won bronze at the European Games. As referenced with all these kind of notable names I've just mentioned, she won bronze there. She's, as a general rule, she prefers to counter punch, but she's also happy to fight on the inside. So if it does get there, she's happy to get down and dirty and have that fight on the inside as well. A double world champion competing here is Hung Sao Wen. So she's from Taiwan, or again Chinese Taipei, depending on how you feel. She's a double world champion, so she won in 2019 and 2023, and she won bronze at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So, you know, she's got that quality. She's always good in big tournaments. She's tall, rangy, generally looks to beat opponents on the back foot here. So yeah, she's got wins over some of the better fighters in other weight divisions. So she's come down from featherweight. MIG also competed at the last Olympics. She's previously a very strong youth fighter, so she was a youth world champion in 2017. She's an elusive southpaw. She doesn't tend to be the busiest fighter, so she tends to fight in little spurts. So she'll let 3 or 4 go, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll go again with 3 or 4, and then we'll take another break, which is sometimes her downfall. If she could consistently do that throughout the whole fight, you'd maybe think that she has more of a chance. You've also got Yeni Arias, so she's the Colombian fighter, won the 2023 Pan American Games. She's a World Championship silver medalist, so in 2023 she got to the final. She also defeated Petecchio back in 2018 at the 2018 World Championship, so Petecchio from the weight above. She wants to press forward. She's going to use that jab, and yeah, press forward. She's come down from 57 kilos, so she tends to be stronger than most of the girls she's fighting here. But she's 33, so that's one negative against her. She's potentially a little bit past her best. North Korea have arguably their strongest representative here. So they've got Chol-mi Pang, who won the 2023 Asian Games. She's a former world champion as well. So that was at 2018 in the featherweight division. And in 2019 in featherweight, she was a bronze medalist. With the North Korean fighters, you don't see them a lot on the circuit. So they don't come to all the tournaments that you tend to see a lot of these girls rotate. So it's quite hard to work out kind of where she stands with the rest of these competitors, because you just don't see her as regularly on the scene as everyone else. Chang Young was the runner-up at that Asian Games, a Chinese fighter. She's a youth boxer, was a good youth boxer, who has translated quite well to the senior scene. She did win the Asian Games back in 2018, so although she was runner-up last time, in 2018 she did actually win it. She's a tricky southpaw. She picks punches well, wants to be at long range though, that's where she's most comfortable, so she can pick her shots. And yeah, she tends to be quite accurate. A few more Asian fighters that I'll mention is Preeti Pawar. So she was bronze medalist at the 2023 Asian Games. She's the Indian fighter, and she qualified at only 19, so a young fighter, still developing. So you wonder if that will kind of come up against her, against maybe the experience of Arias or something like that. Someone may give her a bit of trouble. Nigina Tomova is the Uzbekistani. She was the other bronze medalist at the 2023 Asian Games. She's also young, so she's the Asian under-23 champion at the moment, so you'd probably kind of rank her over Preeti Pawar. She is, again, a pressure fighter. She's going to march you down. She's going to keep a high guard, so she's quite responsible defensively while she does it. She keeps up there, but yeah, she's going to look to march you down. You also got Jutamas Jitpong. Now, she's another one who's fought a few times as a professional. Her record's not particularly impressive. Again, same style of fighter though. She's just going to look to move forwards, constantly take it to her opposition. She won bronze at last World Championship, so she, is starting to actually make a bit of an impact in the amateurs. She never really did in the pros. She also won silver at the 2022 World Championships at the division below. Okay, so yeah, a tricky opponent. Final name I'll mention is Sara Srkovic. Now, she's a Serbian fighter. She's only 20, but she's looked really impressive this year. She's lost to Petrova, the Bulgarian, who's potentially the favourite, but she did have a win over Perezhok, so the Romanian fighter. She's someone who could be a surprise out of nowhere. I don't think many people will have her name on their lips, but I expect that she'll cause trouble for a few of these better fighters, again, depending on how the draw goes. But she's someone that I think can challenge and maybe win a bit of a shock medal. Petrova is the favourite, so the Bulgarian fighter, and you can see why. She's got such a good record, but it wouldn't shock me if one of these girls is able to get an upset here. Perezhok, the Romanian fighter, as referenced, she's got a good record against her, so if they come up, that'll be something that she's got more of a chance than I'd say the rest of the field of defeating her. You also got the Taiwanese fighter, so I think she's a likely medalist here. I think she's going to cause lots of problems. The other one is the Turkish fighter, Hatis Akbas. I think she would be she'd probably be my favourite. I'd edge her over Petrova. And yeah, I think the medals comes down to So Wen, Chang Yan, the Chinese fighter, Charlie Davison and Perezhok, the Romanian. I think if GB are going to win a medal, this is their best chance. I think Davison is the best GB fighter. And I think if I was making a prediction, I think she wins a medal. Bronze, silver, gold, I don't know. But I think she'll be there at the end, and I think she'll win a medal.
Would you say, out of all of the divisions in the women's, this is probably one of the closest in terms of anyone can get a medal?
Yeah, I think after kind of the first division that we went through, the 75 kilo, this is kind of the next best in terms of not like strength and depth at the top end. I think this is the next best for me. There's no one who's particularly dominant. But there's lots of good fighters. So I think you could get to kind of 8 or 10 names maybe 6 to 8 names where you're going, yeah, you could get a medal. And even, Perezhok, as mentioned, has a good, she's beat opponents that she shouldn't have necessarily, according to the rankings. That's how it is here. If the draw breaks right for certain fighters, they're going to expect a medal. Final weight class is the 50 kilo division. And this is one that's headlined by a Turkish fighter. So again, I think we're going to get a Turkish gold medal here. It's Buse Naz Kakiroglu. She competed at the last Olympics where she won a bronze medal. She was also the 2022 world champion. She'd been a winner at continental tournaments. So she won the European Games in 2023. She won the European Championship in 2022. She's a counter puncher. She's got really fast hands. Obviously, you expect it at the lowest weight class. You think they're all going to be fast. She's faster than most. She boxes out a southpaw stance. She's going to keep her hands low. She's a really impressive fighter. And yeah, I think she's got a great chance, as with the rest of the Turkish team. They're all very impressive. Current world champion is Nikita Zareen. So she's an Indian fighter. She also was a world champion at the division above in 2022. So she's moved down. She's won the Commonwealth Games. She's been bronze at the Asian Games in 2023. She's arguably the biggest contender for Kakiroglu here. Another representative who was at the last Olympics is Giordana Sorrentino. She's Italian. She's only 5 foot, so she's tiny. She's looking to counter. So despite not having long arms, she wants you to make your first move, and then she's going to look to counter. She's been quarter-finalist at the last 2 World Championships and has won bronze medals in European tournaments. So she's got quite a good resume. Laura Fuertes is on the opposite end of the spectrum, so she's going to be one of the bigger girls in this weight class. She's 23. She's won bronze at the 2022 World Championship and also the 2023 European Games. Be an interesting matchup if those two get to meet. You get to see the little and large combination there. Wu Yu is the Chinese competitor. Again, she won the last World Championships at the weight above. So where Zareen had already moved down for last year, she won it at that weight. She did win the Asian Games, so she beat Zareen, and it'll be interesting to see if them two come up against each other, having both come down from that division. Another name that's big to mention is Wasila Lakidari. So she's the French representative. She took off a load of time to become a mother. So she took a break from boxing, went away, had a baby, and has now returned. She was a silver medalist at the 2023 European Games and also won bronze at the 2023 World Championships. Ingrid Valencia is a name who people in boxing will potentially be familiar with. So she won bronze at the 2016 Olympics, all the way 8 years ago, back in Rio. She competed in Tokyo. She's a southpaw. Again, she's going to keep that lead hand low, as you see so often, but she's going to want to come forward with it. So she's going to stalk her opposition. She's going to look to put the pressure on. She's a World Championship medalist, so she won silver in 2022, and then she won bronze last year. So a lot of quality there. The Philippines have a name worth mentioning as well, Ira Villegas. So she was a quarter-finalist at the 2022 World Championship. And again, she's a southpaw, as referenced. There's quite a few of them in this field. She's someone that people could have problems with. Sabina Bobakalova is the Uzbekistani representative, so she was the under-22 Asian champion recently. So again, she's part of the kind of next wave of Uzbekistani women who are on the same training program as the men. None of them have really established at the same level as the men yet, but she's going to be, along with a compatriot that we mentioned on the last weight, looking to kind of make a name for herself. Caroline Diamelda is the Pan American Games champion, so she's Brazilian, another southpaw, and she loves to land the straight left right hook combination. Rear hand and then lead hook. So she's going to look to throw that consistently. That's her best weapon. If she lands that, you're going to be in trouble. We've also got Rusmeya Bualam, so she's an Algerian fighter. She's got a good overhand right, but she's someone who I'm not a massive fan of. I think that she ships too many shots, so she takes lots of shots defensively, and she also lacks the ring generalship. So instead of being able to put her opponent where she wants there, she'll let people off the ropes. I often think she lets opponents get away when she should be able to just corner them and keep them at the ropes. I think she lacks a little bit in that department, but she's the second seed. Again, a bit of a crazy one in my opinion. But yeah, she's potentially going to get further than expected just as a seeded fighter. As reference, I think Businaz Kakaraglu is my favourite, the Turkish fighter. I expect her to win gold. I think the two Asian fighters I mentioned, so Wu Yu and the Indian fighter Nikita Zareen, are definite potential medalists here. Outside of that, it wouldn't surprise me if Wasila Lekhedri, the French fighter, is able to get on the stage. As reference, there are going to be some usually going to be some bad decisions. It wouldn't shock me if a French fighter is the benefactor of that, getting a bad decision. Outside of that, maybe Ingrid Valencia, with her experience, she could end up on the podium. And the other one I'll mention is Laura Fuertes, who's got the World Championship medals already. And those are, I think, they're the contenders for that podium, basically.
Again, it's another wide open group, really, in terms of medalists. You've got a lot of people there, depending on the day, that are all competitive. 100%.
I think this is one of the things about women boxing. I think there are a lot of these divisions that are really competitive at the moment, and I don't know if because lots of the women have almost been funneled to the Olympic weights, whereas men, they've restricted the weight classes, so people have kind of had to leave their weight classes that they were once in. Because it's only grown with women how many weight classes they have, a lot of women have almost got into that weight on purpose, knowing it's Olympic weight. So with Zareen, she was obviously the 2022 world champion at another weight. Knowing she wanted to compete to the Olympics, she headed down in 2023. She's preparing herself for that Olympic category. So I think that a lot of the women are, streamlined into those weights. Whereas in the men's competition, because up until recently, say for example, 60 kilos was an Olympic weight, I think a lot of men still make that and are now going, I don't want to get down to 57, I don't want to get up to 63.5. You get lost in no man's land a little bit more. So I think a lot of the women's weights are more open because of that, because I think so many are streamlined into their competition.
If you were to recommend exciting fighters to watch in the women's division, who would you suggest?
Yeah, so I think... it's going to harp on a theme that I've been on all day here. The Turkish fighters. I think the Turkish fighters are brilliant to watch. Sermonelli, favourite fighter in the Olympics. Akbas, Kakiroglu. They all fight in that similar style. So I find them all quite exciting to watch. Again, if you're going to watch if you want to watch a pressure fighter, you've got quite a few good examples. The Romanian Perejuk is the main example in the 54 kilo division. She's a great pressure fighter. She's just going to look to come forward and step on it. Up at 75 kilos as well. Quite a lot of those fighters are quite exciting to watch. I like, Alfie O'Rourke for bouncy style, but you've also got Sunniva Hofstad, who's the youth, the Norwegian youth champion. She's so bouncy, and you can just tell she's classy. Anita in the division below, the 66 kilo, Anita Radzieska, the Polish fighter. She's another one who, she's fun to watch. You can see the class with the way she attacks. It's very smart. So those would be the fighters that I'd recommend.
Are there any hard hitters in the women's division?
You definitely see them from time to time. I mean, in the biggest division, the heavyweight division, El Mahdi, the Moroccan fighter, I think, I wouldn't want to be hit by her myself. I imagine that she's going to cause people a bit of trouble. I've heard Cindy Ngangba hits hard. As reference, those are like sparring stories, so I don't know if that is going to correlate quite the same. People's reactions to Sermonelli tend to suggest to me that she hits quite hard. They tend to go backwards if she wants them to go backwards. Beatriz Ferreira, the Brazilian at 60 kilos. Again, she looks like she hits hard by the way that people react to her. And I think as a pro, she's she's stopped a few people already. I think she's one that hits hard despite being on the lower weight classes.
Can you summarise British expectations for the women's division?
Yeah, I think we've got our likeliest medal winner here. So Charlie Davison, I think she's definitely not a shoo-in. She's not going to be a favourite to win a medal. I think she's good enough to win a medal. I think she's beat a lot of the girls in the division. As reference, it's going to depend on the draw. I keep saying it's going to depend on the draw, but if she gets a nice draw, she's definitely good enough to medal. Chantel Reed at 75 kilos, I don't think can. Like, she's young, so she's going to get better, but it's just such a tough weight class that unless the draw's miraculously easy, I think she'll struggle. Cindy Ngangba obviously is not representing the GB team. She's representing the refugee team. She's got a medal chance though if the draw goes right. She's capable of causing upsets in that division, definitely, even though it's so good. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be a strong Olympics for GB boxing. It's not in a good state at the moment.
Have you got any betting tips?
It's quite hard to find odds at the moment. So a lot of the bookmakers currently only have priced up 3 divisions. The 54 kilo division with Charlie Davidson. In that, as referenced, I like the chances of Hatice Akbas, the Turkish fighter. She is a massive price, so she's double figure odds. I don't think she should be that. She was a 2022 world champion. She's classy enough to get the gold here. Stamira Petrova is the heavy favourite. I think Akbas is being very overpriced, but you may have noticed I have a small Turkish bias, so whether or not you want to take that advice is another question.
What's her odds?
She is currently, looking on Paddy Power, she is currently 25-1, which for me is ridiculous. Maybe wait and see the draw. Maybe if she gets Petrova in the draw, maybe stay away. If the draw goes fine, she has a serious path to get through to the medals. In fairness, so in that, looking at the odds as they're in front of me, Davison's at 20-1, Akbas Perejok at 25-1. There are a few there who have more of a chance than suggested by those odds. Especially if you can get each way with the medal places, they've got more of a chance than that. The other 2 divisions are the 75 kilo division. I still think Tamara Thibault is going to win that, the Canadian. And then at 66, I think Sermonelli, the Turkish, is going to win. She would be my best bet. She's evens. I think that's buying money. She was better odds at the last Olympics, in fairness, but I think she's a level above her opponents. 75 kilos, I don't think I'd want to bet on it just because it's so deep. It doesn't take much for, there's so many good fighters in it that it doesn't take much. Maybe if the draw's tough, it might be that she's had 4 hard fights and she's against someone who's had one hard fight and that person is beating her just on being fresh. So I wouldn't want to touch that until maybe after the draw. Hofstad is someone that I think could cause a bit of an upset there. I really, if she's adjusted to the senior ranks, I think she's got a good chance. But you definitely want to bet on her to win a medal. I'd be surprised if she win gold at this point. Again, wait till the draw and then go from there. When the rest of the markets open up, we'll see. You've got the 60 kilo. If you pick Ferreira or Harrington before the tournament, one of them will probably win it. Testa would be my favourite in the 57 kilo division, but as reference, she's a fighter I like. So is that a bit of cognitive bias on my end? Potentially, just because I'm a fan. Definitely worth checking out the odds once the draws come out. I'd always wait till the draw with these.
Well, you're definitely a fan for a reason, so I'm guessing I know the answer for this, but I will have to ask it. What country do you predict is going to get the most medals?
So Uzbekistan are obviously, as reference, we think going to win the most medals in the men, but they're not going to do as well in the women's.
Women's,
just the women's. Yeah, so they're not going to do as well. The team that I think is going to win the most is Turkey. As reference, I think they've got 3 really solid chances: Sermonelli, Akbas, and Kakiroglu. I think 2 of those should win gold: Kakiroglu and Sermonelli. Akbas, not so sure, but I don't see why not. She's a former world champion. India have a strong team. So India have entries in every division pretty much, and they've all got chances. I wouldn't make any of them favourites, but they should all, draw permitting, make the quarterfinals. So whether that allows them to then go on and win the gold or win a bronze or silver, they're going to be up there. China as well. So China have lots of high seeds, especially, and are another team in a similar. I think they've got a similar amount of quality maybe to India, but given the seedings, they benefit the Chinese team. So whether or not that helps them get a few more medals is a possibility. it wouldn't shock me if France win a few bronze medals here. I don't think any of them names are going to win their divisions, but they have possible contenders who'd rank in the top 10. And as referenced, at home in a home Olympics, you'd expect them to get a few decisions go their way. I mentioned a few Italian fighters we went through. There's 3 or 4 there. So, you know, as a general, I think the medals are going to be quite spread out. But there's a few who could win 3 or 4 medals here, a few countries anyway.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I will share your blog with all of the Olympic news in the bio for everybody to see.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan, so I keep watching all the videos, and yeah, great of you to have me.